name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in an accident, call me, and I'll fight for you. I'm not an actor or a celebrity spokesperson. I'm a real trial lawyer, and I've appeared before real judges and real juries on behalf of people with serious injuries. So when I say I'll fight for you, I mean it, and I'll back it up. If you've been hurt in an automobile or 18-wheeler accident, contact me toll-free at 866-529-2444, and I'll fight for your rights.
This is a good dude, y'all. Coming in story, man, big time lawyer out here in Texas, man. He not telling a story, and y'all need to do the same.
Well, my books, I started writing these books in 2011, and they're called
yeah, there we go.
Rules to Live By, How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. And you can get them on Amazon, and you can download them directly off Amazon and Kindle. Just look up Dennis Sperling, which is my name, Dennis Sperling, and type in Amazon. They'll come right up. If you want a hard copy, you can email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. If you want a copy of the books, and I'm telling you, I give you a lot of different scenarios. There's some child support stuff in here, but it's mostly a lot of different areas which I've had to deal with in my personal life. Those of you guys who have sons who have you just met, or sons who are separated from you, if you one of those young men, and I call myself the lost son, and I actually wrote a lot of music, man. Come to find out, man, I'm related to B.B. King through my grandmother. It was her cousin. That's like my cousin. So
he from Mississippi too.
Yeah. Her name was Elmira King. He was B.B. King. They were cousins, and they all lived out in that area, and so come to find out, man, music is in my blood. So I end up doing 7 albums with Beans and Cornbread. They produced Slim Thug, Paul Wall. Okay. I actually got a track with Paul Wall from back in the day. It's called Grown Man Stuff, but that's not something I want to go into. But bottom line is that creativity allows me to be who I am. But the books, you can find them on Amazon. You can do the Kindle thing. They're very interesting. They're a wonderful read. You can probably read them in 2 or 3 days, but they're great for young men who have grown up, who haven't had their fathers. It basically deals with everything that we as Black American men have had to deal with in the past 40 years.
Across me, man. I was like, man, I was checking you out. I'm like, damn, this man a real deal. So yeah, definitely, man. We all got to reach back. You know what I'm saying? And we right now, like with Kev, we got Donovan, we got all these different brothers in a network. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's using their talents to help each other get to the next level. Definitely love to bring you into the fold.
Definitely. You guys are amazing. All you guys, I just love to hear my Black brothers speaking their mind. I just want to hear you all say what it is that you want to say and speak on your behalf, because I know you're a little bit younger than I am, man, but hell, since the 1980s, all I've been hearing is Black men get bashed. They ain't this, they ain't that. We've had nobody to speak up on our behalf, so we've been told just to shut up and take it, be the strong, silent type. It's not manly for you to speak up. How dare you argue with these women, blah, 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 even if what they're saying is outright lies and what we know not to be true. Even in our religious, whether it's the church or the Black Muslims or any of these type of folks, it's always seemed like they rather bash the men as opposed to hold the ladies accountable. And that's unfortunate, because you've created this one-sided war, and you have one side that has no accountability for what they've done. And then now what? Look at where we are as a culture.
Brother DeBell 5000 got a question. Is there any way for family court laws to change if men and real women push to change it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the fact that you have more women being forced to pay child support and alimony is probably the only thing that's going to make them say we need to change these laws. Because as long as it was one-sided and it was men paying women, for the past, I don't know how many years, at least since
A lot of years.
a lot of years. Then there was no incentive for women to even want to change anything because that's their fallback plan. I marry a rich guy, I have some kids, I divorce them, I'm good. But right. But now that women are being forced to have to ante up, I think there is some incentive for it to change. And here's another thing: a lot of those ladies who have sons who they've seen been manhandled by the child support system, they should become advocates for family law reform. I think one thing we should do is we should begin to do away with child support altogether.
Like they use Black men as a catalyst to get more funding for themselves to go in a different direction. What are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter as an organization?
I am not happy with Black Lives Matter as an organization. In fact, I'm absolutely disgusted by Black Lives Matter as an organization. These vultures, what they do is whenever a Black man is shot by a white cop or a white race soldier or one of these white suburban commandos, they come in to protest, and they only come in to protest if those Black men's lives fit a certain narrative. So Black Lives Matter is a very disingenuous organization. It talks about marching and protesting, but if we look at who they're marching and protesting for, oftentimes it is, again, Black men who are Pookies and Ray Rays who are shot and killed by a white police officer, a race soldier, or one of these white suburban commandos. They go out here, they kick up a fuss with this protesting, and they really are not anything about Black men or Black men's issues. Because when I look at Black Lives Matter, they don't talk about Black men's issues.
Dramatization.
After a car wreck, you may have to fight with a highly trained insurance company rep whose job is to knock your damaged claim down and out. It's a bad idea to enter the ring alone against a trained boxer, and it could be a bad idea to fight against a big insurance company by yourself. When the bell rings, attorney Dennis Sperling will be there to fight for your rights. If you've been seriously injured in a car wreck, call me, attorney Dennis Sperling, at 866-529-2444. That's 866-529-2444. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
Attorney, reality show creator, and rapper Dennis Sperling. Also joining us is Sperling's good friends, Vondrick Christmas and Dion Dorsett. Welcome to The Fact Uncensored.
What's up, Hasan?
Now, here's the thing. I've been reading your Facebook posts for years,
Okay.
and this is what you've been espousing. You're saying, I need to leave this country to find a good woman.
Yeah. Okay. See, first of all,
No
I don't really
backtracking
like
now.
the way you
No
brought us in
backtracking.
here like that, man. We don't need the smoke, man. We don't need that type of smoke. Okay. What happened was I got divorced, and I looked around and I said, I want to change, and I never really traveled. I went to school. These guys went to school with me, and they know all we did was study. And so I got married. That didn't work out. I got divorced, and then I said, well, you know what? Let me get a passport and see what that's like. So I started traveling overseas. I went to the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, all over London, Europe, things that I had never done before, and I liked it, and I liked what I saw, and I enjoyed myself. And when I did decide to date, I got treated like a king, so I go where I'm celebrated.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that's
So,
basically it.
You're not celebrated here in the United States
What?
like you want to be.
Okay, see what had happened was I got divorced, you know, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My Facebook posts are real, but really they're the feelings that a lot of African American men and men in general feel. They say, look, the juice is not worth the squeeze. I work all my life, I do everything I can to please my wife, and then she divorces me. 70% of marriages are brought to divorce by the women in those relationships. So clearly people aren't happy. Look at the marriage rate. Look at the depression rate that we have. I think people need to get out a little bit more. But more importantly, you know, it's something that I like. These guys, I know that they don't feel the same way I do because my Facebook page has a diverse group of guys with different ideas. And so this is just what works for me, you know?
And so what works for you guys?
So I would say that
and then it depends on what type of
And
man
is
you are.
anything wrong with that?
Nothing.
Requiring more?
No, it's not. It's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just you know those expectations seem for some guys maybe a little bit much.
I argue all day, and I don't have time to come home and argue.
And so that's what you get with
what
you perceive to be an American woman.
I think that American women, they have so much pressure on them that it's nearly impossible for them to fulfill those traditional roles that women have fulfilled all the way up until the 50s when industrialization and it's impossible for them to do that. So the culture and what we have going on here in the United States makes it impossible to have one of those traditional relationships. Whereas in Colombia or the Dominican Republic or Haiti, the women, they still have that culture that says, hey, I'm cooking and cleaning for my man, but hey, there's some responsibilities on the men too, because those women, they still want men that take care of business, that go to work, that pay bills. So you have you have a role you have to fill, and she has a role she has to fill. So it's not like I'm just going down there sitting up on the sofa and she's making mango every day, feeding me like I'm a king.
you never get flack from. I hate to say it, man, but you're a successful brother.
Yeah.
And I'm a successful man. I don't get flack from my peers. I don't get flack from guys that are up here doing the things we're doing, regardless of where the comma is. You tend to get flack from guys who are not where they want to be.
Right.
And it's like, look, man. And here's one thing that's unique about the Black community. We got what the barbershop experience, and that takes anywhere from the homeless dude to the D-boy to the corporate exec. We all go to the same spot, and that's one thing that's unique about us is the socioeconomic groups we mix, and we all look at each other as men. And I'm like, no, there's white men, non-Black men have long been able to do all these things, but when Black men just do what's normal and natural, we're muted. And that's what brothers are finally starting to push back and fight against, because that's crazy to think that you shouldn't have a younger woman, especially if you can pay the cost to be the boss and provide. That's the ideal situation.
It is.
Ideal situation, because she never has to go outside and work and get outside of her femininity.
It seems to me, for those who say this is bad for the Black community, it would seem to me that the perfect pairing is a mature older man with resources who's proven himself, and a younger fertile woman who can come together and reproduce children in a safe family environment. I believe in marriage. I don't like the family laws that are set up there, but I do believe in marriage. I think men are better in marriage when they have loving women who care for them, who are reciprocate, who are feminine, and who are there to help them be the best men they can be. I believe in marriage. I just don't like the way the system is set up. Now, there are some things you can do to mitigate that: prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements, have an understanding, put some money in trust account, so you can eliminate the financial incentive in getting a divorce. And there you are. Now you got a person in front of you. But
I'm glad that we actually got a high value man. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. I'm not sure if you've been following the high value movement, but you know what I'm saying, you definitely would fit that description. I mean, a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? You went about it the right way. You're married. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out, but you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And what you have to do is co-parent. And we hear the women all the time tell us stories about how I'm such a good, we co-parent good. It's always the women talking about it. You know what I'm saying? But you as a black man, high value black man, it's very important that you get a perspective and give the brothers the right advice as far as co-parenting. And it seems like that's been the bulk of your work, you know what I'm saying? Outside of the law, you know, you've been really pushing for co-parenting and just showing the dynamics of it and how it should work and how it can work in harmony. Because again, you don't have no ill will against your wife, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying it on your show.
You know what I'm saying? So you ain't cooking her. So I mean, it seems like everything, you know, you got everything copacetic. So talk to the brothers who may be going through a divorce.
Well,
who may be in a situation where, look, man, I had a kid with this woman and I got all these things going, but I'm trying to make sure I keep harmony for the sake of the kids, because that's who it's about.
Well, let me say this, brother. I got divorced for a reason.
Okay.
And I, in the wake of that divorce, 5 years thereafter, I got myself what's called a baby mama. I don't know if you've heard of that, but life got real.
I've heard of that. Have we heard of that, church?
Yeah, it got complicated after that happened because the children were born under two separate circumstances. So I can pull from both of these, you know, to kind of explain, you know, what happened. Now, I would suggest that you never get a baby mama if you can avoid one, but it happened to me. But basically I think my point is you can't co-parent with everyone, period. If you weren't married to that woman, if you were married to a woman, hopefully you guys came to an accord at some point and you can use that as a foundation to begin to co-parent and do what's in the best interest of the child. Now, if you had one night when you turned up at the club and you just randomly met some woman and you have nothing in common with her and you don't know much about her and you guys have two different set of principles and understanding about how life should be and how children should raise, it's going to be very difficult for you to co-parent with that person. So
is that the case with the baby mama?
Probably so.
Hi, my name is Dennis Sperling. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy is.
Yeah, if you've been hurt in a car accident, call my daddy.
No need to scream and yell like a little kid.
Yeah, no,
my daddy will fight for your rights.
Yeah, fight for your rights.
If you've been involved in a car accident, call my daddy, returning Dennis Sperling.
Hello, I'm attorney Dennis Sperling. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call me at 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
Understanding about life. I know what it is to be with a woman and how you have to treat a woman and how you have to pick and select a woman. And you do a great job at explaining to these young men what they don't want and what they should be looking after. I didn't have somebody like you when I was a young man. You see,
yeah. Do you believe in marriage, and would you get married again?
I would definitely get married again. It would definitely be a different kind of woman. It would definitely be a woman not from the toxic culture that I was raised in. Okay. And so it's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. Okay. Let me say that again for the people in the back. It's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. I typically have only dated Black women, Black American women. I tried to date the Jamaican lady who ended up being my child's mother, but she was Black American in her culture because she was raised in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't good women out there, but what I'm saying is you're looking at a toxic culture that does not put the family first. They put the me first. They put the get the bag first. And so it's impossible to have a union with somebody like that. And we got a lot of stuff going on politically. And the question that I presented today for the brothers here is, this is my statement. Just because Trump has been voted out doesn't mean that the show is over. 70 million fervent followers voted for him in 2020, despite knowing all of his shortcomings. Trump is a symptom. He is a reflection of how nearly one half of Americans feel. How does this affect Black men? Let's talk about it. And as the opening statement, it was 2021 and beyond. 70 million Trump voters aren't going anywhere. Look, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that 5 people have been shot and killed in Washington, D.C. As of now, related to the protest outside the Capitol building. One of them is this gentleman, Benjamin Phillips. He basically runs a Trump website, pro-Trump website called Trumparoo, where patriots can mobilize against the corrupt, communist, Marxist, scummy Democrats. Here's another one. We just learned avid Trump supporter Kevin Greeson, who regularly posted online about getting his guns and taking the country back, was one of the 4 people who died in the siege. It was 5 people who died in the siege of the Capitol. Post from Greeson wishing bad things to happen to Nancy Pelosi and identifying with the Proud Boys were found as well. So here's what I'm saying, fellas. You know, these guys, these people are not going anywhere.
And just explain to them generally.
Well, the context of that video was me making a commentary on how people are not really looking objectively at your Donald Trump. And because they're not looking at him objectively, they are approaching him from the position, as I see it, of obsession. Because when I look at the way the Congress has been acting, I look at the way the Senate has been acting, I look at the way people on the street have been acting, and it's like they're not thinking critically or objectively about anything Donald Trump is about. They're coming at it from this position of this extreme emotion. And because they're coming from this extreme emotion, they only think from this perspective of obsessively about Donald Trump. It's all about either you're extremely for Trump or you're extremely against Trump. And these people who are obsessed with Donald Trump, they aren't really thinking about the harm they're doing to the American people.
I will scream and I will holler. Then I'll scream and holler some more, saying absolutely nothing.
You have a choice in legal representation. And in making that choice, do you want an attorney with a made-for-TV nickname to represent you in your serious car wreck claim?
I will growl, kick, and scream.
My name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident, contact me toll-free at 866-529-2444. The choice is yours.
And then, man, what happened to the real niggas? Nothing. They've been fake like they always been fake. So they just ushering in the death of the real nigga. Why these guys wearing suits? Because they grown. What you got a problem with it for? What is your size in a suit? Do you know your waist and your length? You know what I'm saying? Do you know what your chest measurements are? Do you? You know, double-breasted, do you know? You don't. You know, what's your neck? What's your collar on your neck? Do you know? What kind of ties you like? Do you know? No, you don't. A lot of people ain't really been anywhere. So at the end of the day, it's the death of the real nigga because all y'all been is in the hood. That's it. Y'all don't intend to go anywhere else. And now when you can't go online, because let's be honest, everybody who's hood now, exactly. But it ain't just Pookie and Ray Ray who in their feelings. It ain't. It ain't. Pookie and Ray Ray girlfriend too. Because guess what she looking at? She's also looking at this. Damn. See, let me put this in reverse. You know, guys who are blue collar and white collar, you know, no one thanks for not the super chat, the cash app. Guys who out here talking that, you know, you take her out, but she come home to me. Really? So y'all still on that game. So you feel like the lame gonna take her out and she gonna come home to you because you a real one. Oh, okay. Appreciate it, Carlos. So let me get this right. Did you kiss her when she came back in the house when she was on a date with another man? Did she bring you back some leftovers paid for by another man? Was she driving in the passenger side? You know, that's what she was doing. She was driving in the passenger side with nice leather seats, heated and cooled. But you and her passenger side when she driving the car? But you the player? Okay. This is the lie we live in.
Let me tell you guys
a basis for what I'm about to talk about. They're not nerds.
What's up, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling, and that's L.A.R. If you guys don't know who L.A.R., you need to know who L.A.R. But that was, I listened to that about 3 or 4 times. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes. But this brother here, man, I mean, every word out of his mouth was like a jewel being dropped. And so because of that, I was motivated to put this stream up. Okay. But the man who doesn't need any introduction, L.A.R., man, thank you so much. And we got another very special guest that I'm going to bring in a minute. But man, bro, I just want to say thank you for putting that out there, because you've spoken about your history and some of the things you said, man, in that video. You said, yeah, these dudes supporting this whole Pookie and Ray Ray / movement, they don't want their kids to be Pookie and Ray Ray. And I just thought, man, that was epic, brother. But anyway, shout out to everybody in the chat room. Let's welcome L.A.R. Hit the W, L.A.R. movement. Hit the W for L.A.R. because he went in for a win on that one. Go ahead, brothers, if you will. But man, introduce yourself, man. Just say what's up to everybody. Like, not that you need any introduction.
L.A.R. movement still moving. Good day to everybody. Normally I just talk about topics, and that happened to be one of them. But because of all the shenanigans that I saw, I see how it was interpreted and taken. I really don't care if people got offended because I didn't lie.
Right.
But the thing about it was, when you're gonna call a spade, that goes for everybody. You don't get any outs. And in our community, you know, that demographic of fellas have had a lot of outs.
Yeah.
You know, so and I know what they're not mad about. That thing started with me because of, it wasn't actually because of the Kevin Samuels, Nicki Minaj interview and things that were going on. I was looking at this for a very long time. And it was just like, y'all did this again. Every time something happens, y'all did this again. So I'm like, basically, anytime a guy who doesn't come across as a gangster wannabe talks to gets successful or talks to a woman that you would consider like a top-notch hood rat, people lose their minds.
Man, I don't understand it myself, but here's the thing, man, and what I see, and I think the other guest that we have is going to be able to speak on this some more. Kevin Samuels and TLA, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson, Dr. Ronald Neal, the Green Gorilla, Kosher Clinician, Mediocre tutorials, Poorman podcast. I don't put myself in this category, you know, because the reason I don't is because these men are eloquent, they're well-spoken, and you know, they're the best representation, you know, that I think that we have on the manosphere. And this is something that just happened over the past 2 or 3 years. I've been listening to Black YouTube for a while, and I'm not saying that other brothers don't say beautiful, intelligent, wonderful thing. Like you and I chop my words up too much. I'm a little grimy. You know what I mean? And I'm
the same way.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and I think a lot of brothers gravitate to me because they're like, you know, he's a little grimy. He's cool. I like him. You know, he on the boat with all the chicks and be in the backyard with a dirty t-shirt. I could never see Kevin Samuels with a dirty t-shirt. You know, and the TLA, the lead attorney, well-spoken young man. You know, he's the same age. But the bottom line is, man, they are productive images, you know. And so you said this, you know, the black men won the gender war, and the so-called educated lames have beat the so-called real N-words in the Black Manosphere. And a lot of, and that's just it. And I can acknowledge it's getting extremely competitive here. But once you start introducing Snap, Cash Apps, and these sort of things, you're going to have more people who have more talent, more education, more know-how, more knowledge coming in. And I think it's some animosity there. But at the end of the day, it's not really a war that you can win. You see what I'm saying? If you don't have that knowledge base. I want to listen to other intelligent people. I don't want to listen to some dude tell me about what it's like in prison all day. You see what I'm saying, bro? Like, and that's it. But I want to go ahead and introduce this brother. A brother who needs no introduction, a brother who is who is constantly working to try to help black men. This is my good brother and my friend, Brother Derek Muhammad. Yeah. Always good to see him. He has a Black Male Summit twice a year. And I guess for the past at least 4 or 5 years, I can't recall, I've even reached out to him to donate. I spoke once or twice. But it's important that members of the professional class in Houston and all around the country remember that you have an obligation to the young men, okay? The young men in the community. Now I know it's called Black Male Summit, but when I'm there, I often see young Hispanic men. I've even seen a few young white men there. I see young men of all ethnicities at this summit. Maybe you can tell the people a little bit about it, and if they want to donate, they can do that. I have a very strong following on YouTube, you know what I mean? And I oftentimes will cite the lessons that I learned from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they should be given credit. Largely why I feel the obligation to give back, even though I am a Christian, you know, and I love Christ, and you know, that's who I follow. This is still my brother, and what he does is good work. I've even visited the mosque with my boys sometimes because it's, we love the food, by the way. Yes. I got to come back over to get some of that food, man. But the most important thing is we should not let these religious divisions separate us from doing the good work that both Jesus and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, would want for us. So, brother, if you can explain about the Black Male Summit and who's invited and how you had, maybe how you came across
doing it. I appreciate it from my audience.
Well, let me first say peace and blessings to everyone in the audience. Those of you who are members of Dennis Sperling's followership, I say that I'm a member of the brother's followership because he's certainly a brilliant brother and a brilliant example for black men, not in America, just in America, but worldwide. Our brother is a great father, and I find myself often taking notes from how aggressive he is about the progression of his sons. And I think he sets a really good example where that's concerned. My name is Brother Derek Muhammad, and I'm the founder of what is called the Black Male Summit. The Black Male Summit is a program that is specifically designed to address the unique needs that black males face in the United States of America. When you look at education statistics, the black male is at the bottom. When you look at health statistics, the black male at the very bottom. When you look at economics, when you look at politicians, we're at the very bottom of every social category in this country, yet there are very few programs that speak specifically to our experience in the United States of America. So what we try and do with the Black Male Summit movement is we try to teach black boys those things that they're not taught in traditional institutions. There's certain things that are not being taught in schools that should be.
All right, man. The man, hey, look, I wanted these people to hear you, brothers, you know, and I've heard you so much. But man, you guys are two of my favorite. I started listening to L.A.R. before I even joined, and I've been doing Derek Muhammad's probably since I moved back to Houston, maybe 17 years ago, man. But Derek, man, welcome to my broadcast. We got about 180 people in here, man. We are talking about something, and I know you probably don't watch YouTube like the rest of us, but L.A.R. is a very extremely popular YouTuber. You know, I have a very good following, predominantly black men, and we are talking about image today. And L.A.R. gave a very moving video that I'm going to actually put the link in the chat room because I want everybody to see this. And I mentioned this to you earlier today when the brother came to my office, and I track him down to donate to the Black Male Summit. Every time I see it pop up on Instagram, whether it's $500, $1,000, $2,000, whatever I have at that time, I always want to donate because I don't just talk this, I live this. You see, but what I want you to tell us there, and then I'm gonna go to L.A.R. movement after that. Why is teaching black boys to carry themselves in a proper way or to project the proper image, why is that important for their safety? Knowing that we live in a white supremacist dominated society where they're targeted. Go ahead, bro.
First of all, let me say thank you so much for having me on your platform, Brother Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Much respect to you, Brother L.A.R. It's an honor to be on the platform with you, dear brother. It is not just important, but it is critical that we teach black boys how to carry themselves, because as you've already so graciously mentioned, he who controls images controls minds. And as long as the image of the black man is in the hands of our open enemy, the images that are put out into the public, they color the public's perception of what a black male is before they even meet that particular black male, that particular brother. So I know how a black boy is viewed and perceived before he even walks out of the door. And because we know this, we have to make certain that we give them sound strategies on how to handle themselves to first and foremost survive in America, and then to succeed in America. When you look at what happened to our brother George Floyd, okay? George Floyd was not just a victim of the circumstance that he was in, he was a victim of the zip code that he was in. And from the time that they started assigning zip codes to different cities and things of that nature. And from the time that this failed experiment called integration came into play, when we started moving into the major cities, that's when the zip code wars began. So most of us live in what are called sacrifice zip codes. A sacrifice zip code is a zip code that is sacrificed, like the resources are sacrificed for this zip code, so that they can go into whiter and wealthier zip codes, so that when our children grow up, they will have to go to their children to get a job. And in these sacrifice zip codes, you have more police patrolling in these zip codes than others. And so, because we know what Black boys are up against, they're up against a white supremacist world that already sees them as a threat. And because they see you as a threat, we have to teach you how to mitigate the threat. I think that's the proper term. You're the wordsmith here, Attorney Sperling. We have to teach them how to neutralize the threat by teaching them how to best carry themselves in all situations.
You know, brother, the thing is, there's a lot going on here on YouTube, and it's beginning to, and L.A.R. could probably speak to this more because he's a veteran. He's been here way longer than I have. But it seems as though, and I might see if I can get L.A.R. to chime in, it seems as though for a while, for the first 15, maybe 10 years, YouTube was dominated by men who, just regular guys, dressed just like you guys are dressed right now, which is not that big of a deal, but just regular guys who didn't have any particular specialty in either engineering, lawyer, doctors. But now we have gentlemen like Kevin Samuels, who's an image consultant, who has literally helped us understand what our value is as men. Literally, I see him doing the same thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did back in the 1940s and 50s, and telling, hey, this is who you are as a Black man. And if you listen to him, he often quotes some of the things that Minister Louis Farrakhan and Sherazad Ali, Sister Ali said back in the day. And then you got another young brother. His name is Lead Attorney. He's a real attorney. He practices family law. He's entertaining. And then, of course, we have so many other PhDs now. And the thing is, brother, like, it's beginning to change the image of Black men, because now, instead of having what the brothers call a Pookie and a Ray Ray, we have these educated men with suits on who are well-spoken, who know how to carry themselves, who know how to carry on conversations, from intellectuals to artists like Nicki Minaj. And L.A.R., maybe you can give us a little bit of history of what was going on in YouTube before these professionals came upon, and how now you see the images change, because these images are broadcast worldwide. L.A.R., would you like to chime in on that?
You got it. I can say there have been professionals here the whole time, but the difference was they were working. They were always so they didn't have the time to be on here as much as other people, because their schedules are regimented. So the professionals will come after work, or late at night. Sometimes they'll stay online to early in the morning. So now what you're seeing, especially once the pandemic started and more people are at home, the professionals that would be late at night, they could be there in the daytime.
Right.
And also you saw more and more people get brought into the space from the PhD side, the academia side. I think academia was like the last bastion of Black men that this space was getting in this space. So that's really how that happened. So the hodgepodge of different personalities and images. Like, speaking of Kevin, people they asked Kevin to be in this space because years ago, because it's like brothers need a better image, and brothers pushed back at him back then. And then after they pushed back for a while, then they started taking a look in the mirror and going, oh, I see why you say I need to dress more appropriate, be more adult, like, I present myself, have myself clean shaven and not be scruffy all the time. They started getting that, and it was less and less of a problem. But there was always this underlying, you're not hood enough to listen to thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But speaking on what the brother Muhammad said about the zip code, something that you talked about yesterday as a father, and something that I see that is actually part of the underlay of this conversation, for me at least. You have black kids who live in the suburbs who are trying to portray a hood image that don't have a hood life because they think that's what being black is. And now they're putting themselves in unsafe circumstances trying to be black enough, not realizing that ain't being black. That's just being self-sabotaging or self-destructive. So that's why I take issue with people having an issue with the image change.
Now, Brother Muhammad, I want to redirect to something that you probably know very well. What I've noticed, a lot of brothers who join the Nation of Islam, the first thing they're expected to do is change their apparel. And I'm sure that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had some reasoning behind that. And I just want to give some examples. There are some people who are not familiar with the brothers in the Nation of Islam. But when I see the brothers in the Nation of Islam, especially the Fruit of Islam, they're always dressed in suits. They always look like this with a bow tie, or they have their Fruit of Islam uniforms on. Why is it? And a lot of these men are ex-con. These would be the ex-Pookies. These are the ex-drug dealers. These are the ex-gangsters. And then when after Elijah Muhammad finishes with them, then they end up dressing like this, and they're no longer doing those things. So why is it important to change that image? Because they could have very well be in T-shirts and saggy pants. But why is that important to portray to the public, brother?
It is important for many reasons. We were taught that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted to dress black men up, not down, so that we could be seen as respectable businessmen, not just here in America, but worldwide. We were also taught the scientific fact that opposites attract. And so when we go out into these zip codes, these sacrifice zip codes, into the hood, as they call it, we don't want to look like what we're trying to attract. We want to go in clean shaven, haircut decently. Not only did he clean up our clothing and our attire, but he also cleaned up our language. He taught us how to speak well. The way you speak is very important to your image. And because as a wise man, he understood that he who controls images controls minds, he presented us to our people cleaned up, dressed up, suited and booted, as we would call it. That's very, very important, because if I want to attract a brother who wants to clean up his life so that I can help him to do so, then I want to be an example of where he's trying to go. So I agree with Brother L.A.R. I do a lot of mentorship work. And a lot of these brothers who are catching these cases where they're getting 30, 40 years in prison, out here robbing taco trucks. And then you look through the file and you see, man, this man's mother makes a $500,000 a year. Father makes $200,000 a year. What are you out here doing robbing taco trucks? It is because the image that has been presented to them of a gangster, it had become the prevailing image of to them. They deceived into thinking that in some way, form, or fashion, being a gangster and being a man was synonymous, and it is not. So it's very important that we teach our young men how to dress. Dress for the occasion. If you go into a store, let's say you're walking through the mall, and there are not many of those left in America nowadays. If you see a swimsuit on a dummy, in the window. Well, obviously, if you go inside that store, you're looking for swimsuits. Why? Because this is what that particular establishment has presented to you that it represents. If you see a man walking down the street, you know, with a fireman's hat on and he's carrying a a water hose that you use to put out a fire, you obviously believe, oh, this is a fireman. So what you think in your head is often portrayed in what it is you wear, because this is how you present yourself to the world. These are basic lessons that young men and boys have to be taught. Now, let me throw this caveat out there as well. Just because we see the young brother on the corner with his pants sagging off of his behind, he got tattoos on his neck and, you know, look like he's wearing last week's t-shirt, it doesn't mean that we pass him by and throw him out, you know. He's dressed this way because of the way that he thinks. If we can penetrate the way that he thinks, then that in and of itself will begin to influence every other decision that he makes. So in the Black Male Summit, our motto is, if we pull up their minds, then their pants will follow. So I want to give a shout out to all of the brothers, all of the strong brothers who are teaching and preaching masculinity for Black men, who are pulling up the minds of our young brothers so that they can eventually pull up their own pants. But it is critical that we teach young brothers how to present themselves. When you look at Malcolm X and the story of Malcolm X, I think his story is probably the most famous and most profound, of how when a man is taught by a wise man and he changes his mind, there's no limit to what it is that he can become. But you're not going to become a world leader walking around with your pants sagging off your behind. It's just not going to happen.
L.A.R. brother, why do you think we get so much pushback? Why do these brothers who wear suits and when they speak on YouTube, why are they getting so much pushback? They get insulted. They call them educated lames just because the brother has a shirt and tie on or a suit. Why do you think that is? And who is that? Where is that coming from in the Black Manosphere, brother?
If I'm not mistaken, the educated lame thing came from a YouTuber by the name of Sergeant Willie Pete. But if I'm not mistaken, he's a doctor. He was saying that he's a big guy, like 6'5", 2-something, athletic, and he was like, because he's so big and muscular, he got a pass for people thought he was hood because of his size, but he's actually from the suburbs. But when he started speaking, ladies looked at him like he was a lame. And when he started speaking, I think some of the guys took him, oh, you're just a lame who just happens to be a certain build, basically. So if I'm not mistaken, that's how the educated lame thing came about. Mm-hmm. With the suit thing, to me, it's because a lot of brothers aren't comfortable being refined because we're so lax. And to me, it's kind of like The Wire. At the very end of The Wire, if people ever watched the show, Marlowe's character was in a city meeting in a suit, but he was so uncomfortable, he left the meeting and went back to the corner because he just wasn't comfortable in that environment. And for me, it represents guys just aren't that I think it's a fear at times. Like, can I actually be, I hate to use the television reference, can I actually be Ghost in the suit? You know, I can be Ghost on the street or play Ghost on the street, but can I be Ghost in the suit in a nightclub running the business? And I think a lot of us don't want to admit that just in general as a community, our business acumen is not that high. So I think we just shun that whole persona to not have to go down that road to get outside of our comfort zone.
Okay. Brother Derek Muhammad, would you like to add something to that?
Absolutely. You know, I think that we're quick to criticize one another as a way to cover up our own insecurities. I mean, I wear a suit every day, but I'll dress down here and there too, depending on what I'm doing and where I'm going, but I am comfortable in any room. I'm comfortable in the streets. I'm comfortable in the suites. And so I think we just got to get away from using these really weak-minded terms to judge one another. Calling a black man calling another black man a lame. What does that mean?
I don't even know.
Or calling another black man a nerd.
Let me say this, bro. I wish I was a lame.
Thank you.
I wish I didn't have all these traumatic experiences that got me paranoid sometimes and angry for no reason and depressed and all these memories. I wish I didn't have none of this. I wish I was just a little educated dude that didn't have any of this background history, none of this trauma, none of this family trauma, none of this ghetto trauma, none of this. I ain't never seen nobody die in front of me. Nobody get shot up. I wish I had that. I wish I was an educated lame. I don't. The reason I do my boys the way I do and keep them off, because I don't want them to have to experience all that trauma. Because it's like that rose that grew up in the concrete that Tupac talked about. I don't want them to have all these scars and bruises and whatnot. It ain't nothing, hell, I wish I was a lame, bro. But either way, back to your point. What do we do? What do we do, Brother Muhammad, with what seems to be this animosity between, and let me give you some statistics. 60% of black men have entered into the middle class at the point where they reach middle age. So it's not like in the 1960s when you had only 30 or 40 black men in the middle class. The vast majority of us, once we reach the middle class, middle age, which is 30 and above, we middle class. It's $42,000 a year. In the big picture thing, that's not a lot of money, but it gets us to that point where we can sustain ourselves, have our apartments, have our houses. And if you get married, which is, of course, a touchy situation for a lot of brothers because they don't want to get divorced and all the other stuff that goes with it, but you are better off. And so a lot of brothers seem to be pushing back on these things that we call traditional values that kept the black community intact and going. What are your thoughts on that? And then also, what are your thoughts on how do we move forward from here? Generally speaking, what are your thoughts, bro?
As far as black men moving into what they call the middle class,
yeah,
well,
well,
go ahead.
Let me say it like this. There's now only about 20% of brothers who are in poverty. And a lot of those are men who have had criminal records, who can't get jobs, and they're locked out of education, they're locked out of other things. And so they're looking at these brothers who are now in the 60%, who are the majority. And frankly, it seems like a lot of jealousy to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think in a nutshell, the answer is unity. First of all, as black men, we have to realize that, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, no individual can ever rise above the condition of his people.
Yeah.
And, Barack Obama was probably, or will probably be tagged as the most successful black man of our time, considering that he became the president of the United States of America, the so-called leader of the free world, right? He's done something that no other black man has ever done. But he gets called nigger more than me. Excuse my language.
We try to watch that on here. They'll put me off.
Sir, excuse me. He gets called the N-word more than I do.
Yeah.
So that says that no matter who you are, you can never rise above the condition of your people. So our mindset has to be, first and foremost, you can make 100,000 a year. But what are we doing with it collectively? You understand what I'm saying? I think a statistic just came out, or a report that says that as a people, we've blazed past the $1 trillion mark in terms of our spending power. But at the same time, our investment power is horrible. It's horrible. So I think it is our collective unity in all things that we do. I think that is going to be, I know that's going to be the key to our success. But before we can do that, we got to get past the self-hatred, because it's the self-hatred that's causing, us to hate on one another. If I did 20, 30 years in prison and I'm insecure because my wife might be watching Dennis Sperling on YouTube every single day. Then I got to put that brother down in order to try to build myself up in the eyes of my wife, not me personally, but you understand what I'm saying. So we all got to deal with our own personal issues. We got to self-improve, and as we self-improve, then we can better deal with one another as brothers. I don't have to put you down in order to lift myself up. But what we got to do, brother, is we got to get back to the basics of community building. Just got to get back to basics.
Brother, we want to dig deeper here. So L.A.R. laid this out Friday, and the undertone of it, he talked about unity. But the question is, where do you draw the line? See, I can't unify with child molesters. I can't unify with people who sell heroin and crack cocaine to black men, women, and children that are destroying the community. I can't do it. It's just not in me to get that type of person to pass. I can't give a RAP rapist, I can't give them a pass. I don't care who that man is. It could be my own brother. I can't be around that type of person. And these are the type of people and I'll start with L.A.R. and then Brother Muhammad, you can hit it. At what point, L.A.R., do we draw the line and say, this is not acceptable behavior for black men? This is not you're not one of us. You're against us. Where's the line that we begin to draw, L.A.R.?
I'm gonna try to put it this way. I understand the unity. I understand our need for it, but I don't think if you put a room of productive men and unproductive men in the same room, there's going to be a division.
Yeah.
And there's going to be animosity, from both sides, whether it's justified or unjustified. And what I've seen over the years is one of those things where, like what Dennis was just talking about, there's certain people you just don't want to rock with. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not because of their past decisions and them paying the price for their decisions. It's because morally and ethically they haven't reformed. Mm-hmm. And you can see it. Like some people are, and some people you can see are struggling with it, and you're like, I know you're struggling with it, but I'm gonna wait until you finish that before I deal with you, because I don't trust which direction you're gonna go. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, you got people like, listen, I come from the same environments you do, and as you talked about with Barack Obama, I've been called the N-word from this side and your side. Mm-hmm. So they let me know that I'm the enemy, and you let me know that I'm the enemy. Mm-hmm. And even with those unproductive cats, they feel the same way. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things I don't think we're gonna ever come to common ground on, because I think ultimately, the line where the line really just breaks apart is when work ethic comes on the table, because there are people who really want to work and there are people who really don't want to work, and those people are diametrically opposed.
Yes, sir. I think it starts with us having an agenda as black men, and you start out with the idealistic idea of the unity of all black men. That means you give everybody a chance. But once you lay out the principled agenda, now you get an opportunity to prove yourself, not based on personality, but based upon the agenda. Are you willing to invest? And I'm not just talking about monetarily, that too, but time, energy, brain power, mind power in this vision that we have set up for ourselves as brothers. And not only will you find people who were lazy that don't want to push the program, you will find those who will actively work against the program, because in every nation, you have your traitors and you have your stool pigeons. So I do believe that there's a certain, group a certain number among us that we won't be able to take with us. Brother Derek Muhammad didn't make it that way. I wish things were different, but we have to be realistic. So I agree. We won't be able to unite with everybody, but we can create an agenda that gives any who want to come to be a part of this movement an opportunity to better themselves. But for those who don't want to go along with the program, then it is what it is.
So what's the answer, brother? How do, because see, here's the thing. How do we deal with that element? Because I'll tell these brothers on my page, it don't matter where you go. Pookie's gonna end up living next door to you. Because as black people, what happens is when we move into the suburbs, the white folks move out and our own people move in. So you might have moved from the north side of Houston. You might have moved from the south side of Chicago. You might have moved from South Central LA and went all the way up to Palmdale, Lancaster. But eventually, your people will end up right next to you, and you got that same mentality right next to you. And L.A.R. brought this up. He said, all these people supporting this negative criminal behavior and this substandard behavior, they don't want their kids to be like that. So even the reformed Pookies don't want their kids to be like them. They want the kids to be like the so-called educated lane types or the square types. So my thing is, how do we deal with them when we continue seeing them getting our daughters pregnant, fighting with our sons in the street, causing us to look horrible in the eyes, not only in our own eyes, but in the eyes of the world because of their behavior and their destructive attitude. My question is, like, how do we deal with them?
Well, I mean, every situation is different. So I can't give you a catch-all to how you quote unquote deal with them.
And these are our cousins. Hold on a minute.
Yeah,
these are cousins.
Yeah, some of them can be taught. Some of them can be taught. Others can be managed, I guess I should say. So it just depends. It just depends, my brother. But I'm a firm believer in taking control over what it is that you can control. I say it all the time. I was born to fight for my people, not with my people.
Right.
And I hate being in a situation where I have to fight against my own. But sometimes, you'll get a brother or a sister that's just, out of their mind, and you have to do what you have to do in order to handle that situation. So I think I understand your question, like how you handle it overall. You just have to handle it with wisdom. Yeah, you just have to handle it with wisdom.
Brother L.A.R., man, it seems like, and I've mentioned this before, it seems like our brothers and sisters, they gravitate towards the gangsterism and the criminal element, the ratchetness. It's like they gravitate to it. Like Pookie is the superhero in the black neighborhood. I remember growing up, the drug dealer was a superhero in my black neighborhood in LA. They would come through with their El Caminos, and their IROC rims, and their Mercedes, and all these nice cars. But we knew what they were doing, L.A.R. And I know you from Chicago, you knew what they were doing. Why is it that we gravitate to that as a people? And it's almost as if we are like swine, and we're drawn to that slop. Now, I do remember a story I heard about, and I want you to hit this, Brother Muhammad. They said if you give brothers and sisters a clean glass of water, they'll go for that. But even now, it seems like we got brothers who are speaking eloquently, and we're still focused on the negativity. L.A.R., if you get what I'm saying, man, help me understand it. Why is it that we seem to gravitate toward the ratchet? You got school teachers twerking on tables in public restaurants.
I kind of touched on this maybe a week or two ago. I was like, this was your parents 20 years ago. And it was a picture from the Kappa Beach party 20 years ago. And people don't realize how I had a conversation with my mother and my lady about this, how the dysfunctions change. I remember when you were young and you didn't do drugs in front of your children, and that evolved to people doing drugs in front of their children, and now it evolved to people openly, now children are normal being around drugs. My issue as a person, I wasn't in the streets like that, but I was, how can I say, I knew about drugs in the drug game when in Sesame Street's age. So the problem becomes, you got a bunch of people who you're living it vicariously through imagery and music, but you only know the fun part that you dance to. So everybody's cool with the dysfunction and the degeneracy because it's fun and entertaining, but you're not there for when it actually gets real. So now to me, it's like that image and that mentality, you became the suburban kids or the white kids we used to make fun of who wanted to take a safari in the hood to make them feel tough. Now we're blackface, satiring ourselves. Ooh, I went over there and I hung out a little bit, and it's like, that's not, that's not how we do things really. So for me, it's a disconnect. Like we're not really, we're dysfunction for show. But when you're dysfunction, you gotta be 10 toes down to dysfunction because it's gonna go home with you. You don't get to drop it off at somebody else's house. And I think when we think we can drop it off at somebody else's house and it follows us home, all of a sudden we have these mental breakdowns like, why me? And that's what I don't understand.
Yeah. Thank you so much, L.A.R. I know you have some other things you have to take care of. Thank you so much for visiting the platform. You are always welcome here. Your wisdom, your thoughtfulness, I appreciate having you. As you said, I'm a fan. I've been a fan long before I even came to YouTube. So thank you so much for your contribution. Other black men need to hear your voice. The world needs to hear your voice. Thank you so much. Please let everybody know how they can find you on YouTube, sir.
Just L.A.R. movement on YouTube. The video that he talking about is mad disrespectful, so I'm just gonna let y'all know because I was talking to the guys in the vernacular that they like, which is disrespect, so they couldn't really handle it. So
it's magnificent, man.
just so you know. But thanks for having
me. Meet you, my brother.
Yes,
nice
sir.
to meet you too,
hey, we all in H-Town, man.
Yeah.
So
okay.
But man, the movement, L.A.R. movement, he been spitting that hot, real talk for years now. So thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. We're gonna let L.A.R. movement go. Brother Derek Muhammad, check this out, man. You and I have some real honest, candid conversations, right?
Yes, sir.
I got a 14-year-old son. You met my son. You know I love my children. One of the things that scares me the most, man, is that my son will be treated like Trayvon Martin if anything happens to him. That because of the reputation that black men have in this community, in this nation, they won't see my son that you've watched grow up, who take karate class, who's always right up under his daddy, who's studying mathematics and on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, trying to get the best grades he can, trying to be a lawyer like his daddy. They'll see a thug. And when I see these images and when I see these things that a lot of our young brothers do, it makes me extremely angry because I know my sons will have to live in that reputation. The minute they get old enough to be perceived as a man, they then have to bear that same burden that we had to bear. That reputation of being a black man in America and all that comes with it. The thug, the criminality, the gangster, all these negative tropes and stereotypes. And so, bro, I don't want that for my sons. I don't want them to have to get, every time the cops see them, they getting hemmed up and pulled over and Glocks pointed to their head. And next thing you know, 4 or 5 cops' cars are surrounding them, 8 or 9 cops around them. I don't want my son to have to go through that, man. And I know that we have to do something to change our image as black men, because here's the thing, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught me this. They will come for you and they will slaughter you and there won't be any outcry because of the image that you carry. So you have to carry yourself in a way so that when the world sees you, they'll say, these are good people. And why is this racist government or this racist cop treating these good people like this? There'll be an outcry from the public. But if you're already perceived as a crook or a criminal, like that young boy Trayvon Martin, solely because of the negative stereotypes and tropes, you can't get justice. They won't even see you as a victim. They'll always see you as a perpetrator. I am afraid for my sons, brother. And that is my main reason for being here, trying to change the image of black men. But I get so much pushback. Kevin Samuels, the lead attorney, all these other educated men, they get so much pushback. What is your guidance on that, Brother Muhammad? What is your thoughts on that?
Let me first say that no one has ever accomplished anything great and there was not pushback. When you're getting pushback, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're doing something wrong. It means that you're doing something right. You know, sometimes when our children are engaged in errant behavior and we decide to correct them, we get pushback. If you're able to take the pushback, then you'll be okay with them thanking you later. That's why I am with it, my brother. I don't mind the pushback because you'll thank me later. When I believe that the idea that we're laying the base for in terms of cleaning up and strengthening the images of black men, it'll pay dividends in the long run. You'll thank us later. I think the best thing that we can do, dear brother, is number one, we have to stop feeding the machines that perpetuate this negative image of black men. And what I'm seeing, what it sounds like you're saying is happening on YouTube, is that there are black men who are striving to take control of the image of other black men, and they're doing it through media. Media is what controls the minds of the masses. As long as record labels like Atlantic Records, Universal Records, and Interscope Records, and Warner Brothers, and all of these other major platforms that we don't control, as long as they decide who gets played on the radio, and it's in their best interest for the music that portrays us in a negative light to get played on the radio. Because what's happening is what our children are hearing in the music, and I'm not just trying to blame it all on the music, but the music plays a role. What does the music do? It programs the minds of our young brothers to say, you know what? I want to be like that, not like that. Why is it that when you go into a classroom and you say, man, 20 boys in the classroom, and you ask all 20 of them, what do you want to be when you grow up? 12 out of 20 is going to say, I want to be a football player. I want to be a rapper. I want to be a basketball player. Why? Because the entertainers and the athletes are who their parents are cheering for. Parents not cheering for the child. The parents are cheering for Elliot. What's the brother that played for Dallas Cowboys' name? Brother Elliot. I know his father. I can't think of his name. But they're cheering for the running back. You know, child outside playing on Sunday, outdoors having a good time with his friends. He goes in, he wants attention from his family, but everybody's gathered around the television set, watching Ezekiel Elliott run a football. No disrespect to Ezekiel. So the child is going to say, oh, this is who gets the attention in my household. So I want to be whatever it is that they are. If the family was sitting around watching a chess game and were as excited about a chess game as they were about a football game, the child will want to play chess. So it starts in the household, dear brother. You already know what your sons are going to meet when they're no longer in the nest. You already know what they're going to meet. So now, while you control their environment, and this is for mothers and fathers who may be listening, but particularly fathers, while your child is of age where you control their environment, you have to make sure that you take every opportunity to put in them that which they are going to need in order to overcome in an adverse world. And do not make the mistake of teaching your child that we live in a post-racial society. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
Because when you do that, you deceive your child. You send your child into a war with no weapons.
Yeah.
We don't live in a post-racial society. We live in the most racial society that we've ever lived in, because now the massacres, the lynchings, and the plantation action, it's all psychological now. The reason that Black men are viewed so negatively in this country is because we get massacred by the media every single day. So the massacres have not stopped. They're just economic, they're social, they're media-based, they're educational, but we still get massacred. So we have to prepare our children. And I'll end with a quote by Frederick Douglass. The great Frederick Douglass said that it is better to make strong boys than to repair broken men. He said it's easier to raise strong boys than to repair broken men.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Muhammad. I appreciate having you here. There are some people, I'm sure, who want to donate to Black Male Summit. I'm going to put the image up real quick so that they'll know. And maybe there are some who would want to attend the Black Male Summit here in Houston, Texas. It will take place on February 12th. That's Saturday coming.
Yes,
and
sir.
It's going to be at Greenhouse International Church, 200 West Greens Road, Houston, Texas, 77067. Starts at 1 p.m. Will this be broadcast on, will it be streaming on any service?
It will. It will be streaming on the Black Male Summit Facebook page. And it will also be streaming on YouTube on the African Diaspora News Channel. The African Diaspora News Channel, formerly known as the Advise Show. But yes, Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
And if you're taking any donations, how can they go about donating to the Cash App to fund this Black Male Summit 2022?
Yes, sir. We would appreciate anyone who has it in their heart to make a contribution. No contribution is too big. No contribution is too small. But you can donate to us at Cash App at hashtag Truth Trafficker. That's hashtag TruthTrafficker. That's it. Hashtag Truth Trafficker. We also have an online donation link. Are you able to share that, brother?
Brother, let me see if I got a text message from you.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Let me double check. I have a it's I don't have it didn't it didn't come through. I think here we go. Got it right here.
You got it. Okay.
I'll post this up on the link so that everybody can get it. It's going to be on the YouTube link, and that'll be able to get it. Now, is there any specific subject that you all are talking about? What do you go over in these conversations?
Well, on Saturday, God has put it in my heart to talk about, how do you make a crash dummy? How do you make a crash dummy? The definition of a crash dummy, and how do you make one? Because I see so many of our young brothers throwing their lives away, not over nothing, but over less than nothing. And it is because they're being made crash dummies, trying to become something that they were never born to be. You were born to be a God. You were not born to be a gangster. They're being made crash dummies. Yes. So So that's what we'll be dealing with. My brother Silky Slim, Arthur Reed, he's an activist out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He has a Stop the Killing presentation that I believe is the best in the country. Our other dear brother, OG1, Brother Reginald Gordon, he has a program called Prevention Before Detention. And one of my brothers, Brother Donald Turner, he is a pilot. I think he's been a pilot for about 21 years now. But he'll be coming in talking about the aviation industry. And we'll be discussing options. Because too often when our young brothers make these crash dummy choices, it's because they believe that they've run out of options. And there's no such thing as running out of options. There's no such thing. So those are some of the things that we'll be discussing this Saturday.
Well, thank you, Brother Muhammad. It's been great having you here. You're always welcome back. And please, let's make this a habit. Each time you put on your biannual Black Male Summit, let's come here a day or two, or let's say a week before, so we can try to help raise some funds so we can make bigger and better. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 12 years now.
12 years, pretty much by yourself.
Yes, sir.
And so it's time, and I tell you brothers all the time, y'all like to see me on the boats with the women. And y'all love to see me hanging out, overseas, especially when I did that more. Y'all love that. But this is what I do that y'all don't see. Brother Muhammad is somebody that I constantly make sure whatever he got going on, that's a good thing. I try to kick in. You want to be like me? Do that. You see? Because see, at some point, you were like those young boys who are going to be sitting in that audience on February 12th, and you needed some guidance. Many of you look to me for guidance. And what I'm telling you is the same thing you get from me, they get from Brother Derek Muhammad. So let's help the brother out with the contributions. Anything you give is greatly appreciated. The links are there in the chat room. But again, Brother Muhammad, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And y'all let him know that you got it from this channel. All right. You can say Uncle D sent me, or Dennis Sperling sent me, whatever you say. Just let him know that we appreciate his time today and giving us some clarity on this complicated subject that we're dealing with here in Black Manosphere, because it's a sea change happening, brother.
Yes,
brothers are beginning to step up, and I preach the world is yours. You just got to be strong enough to take it and hold on to it. So we're not asking for permission to take charge of our lives and take our position back on this page. And what I want these brothers to do is go out and be conquerors and not to conquer. And so, this is taking charge of what's yours, not asking for permission. It's yours already. Somebody stole your car and you see your car, are you going to ask the thief to let you have your car back? No, you're going to go reclaim your car and deal with it like that. But thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to add before I know you have other things to do, but is there anything else?
I just want to say thank you, Brother Dennis, for being a consistent supporter of our work.
Yes.
Particularly our work dealing with Black men. And I'm going to tell you how important your support is, and the support of our other brothers. In order to remain an independent voice, so that we could teach Black boys like your sons what they need to know versus what popular culture dictates that we teach our boys, we have to remain independent. And it is contributions and contributors like yourself who give back consistently that keep us independent and keep our voices strong. So thank you, my brother. And we'll come back again real soon, dear brother.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right. Man, big shout out to Brother Derek Muhammad and L.A.R. I appreciate these brothers. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to open up the chat room. I want to hear what you brothers have to say. We're going to get back to the topic, man, but I wanted to get those brothers in because, number one, L.A.R. is the reason that we're having this conversation today, because he was the reason that I saw it as a need. This is what we're talking about. But either way, we'll be right back. Y'all make sure y'all contribute to the super chat. the Cash App, and the PayPal. Hey, if you're enjoying the content here at Dennis Sperling Unfiltered, make sure you support it by sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And also, hit that little notification bell in the corner so that you'll get notice of each and every one of our live feeds. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. I appreciate it. Let's keep it going. Donate to the Super Chat. Donate to the PayPal. Donate to the Cash App. It's your contributions and your donations that'll cause for this platform to grow. Let our voice be the voice, the preeminent voice in Black America. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks. All right, welcome back, you guys. This is Dennis Sperling. I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation so far. The link is in the chat room. I want to hear what you brothers have to say. Earlier we had L.A.R. from L.A.R. Movement, man. Love hearing that brother speak, man. His message was fire. It was timely, and it needed to be heard. And of course, brother Derek Muhammad, his dedication over the past 12 years to the Black Male Summit that he puts on biannually here in Houston, Texas, it's a testament to his dedication to Black men and Black boys. Here's the thing. Y'all that hit me, hit the number one. But y'all with me, hit the number one. But make sure you check in. I want to know where you guys are checking in from. The link is in the chat room. So generally speaking, and I kind of said this earlier, right? Kevin Samuels, the lead attorney, Dr. Hasan Johnson, Dr. Ronald, Neal, the Green Gorilla, the Kosher Klinician, Mediocre Tutorials, Poorman's podcast. All of these young men, all of these Black men, they're very well spoken. They sound just eloquent. They're helping to change the image of Black men, because that is not the image of Black men that I grew up with. That was not what was on the media. Brother Muhammad spoke about what the radio is doing and what the images that are pushed out into the world by these mega media tycoons. Here's the thing. YouTube and this platform has provided for an opportunity for Black men to speak firsthand, and you can see them firsthand. And so when you see people like Kevin Samuels and TLA and Dr. Hasan Johnson and Dr. Ronald Neal, and of course the Green Gorilla, and there are several others, the image that they portray, their intelligence, their learning, the research that they've done in their different academic fields, it gives you a different look than what we had growing up in the 1980s and 1990s. And I believe that this is a step in a positive direction, several steps. These above referenced Black men are using the Black Manosphere to change the image of Black men. Men like Kevin Samuels, who seems to have come out of nowhere, right, are altering the public discourse. And they're making that real Nicca, that real ninja philosophy obsolete. And it's about time. At this point, using YouTube, Black men are able to control their own image and their own narrative. They're able to tell their side of the story, right? And they can do it by being educated gentlemen. They're making success the norm. I don't see why there would be any pushback from that. I don't see why there are men on the internet, Pookie or Ray Ray or not, who would have a problem with that. You owe it to yourself to subscribe to Dr. Hasan Johnson. We are happy that someone like that is here. Him and the Institute for Black Male Studies. Why would anybody have pushback for that? Why would you in any way be upset or angry that you have somebody of that caliber here that you can access every day? Have you not heard the Green Gorilla? The G with the PhD. Do you not recognize how much of a blessing that is to have him? Or the Kosher Klinician with his smooth way of delivery, palatable. Why is that an issue? You even have younger brothers like Mediocre tutorials and Poorman podcasts, well-spoken and intelligent, well-versed in the subject matter, speaking on so many different things. I saw what Mediocre I put I did a segment with O'Shea Duke Jackson about a year ago, and the young brother Mediocre tutorials broke it all the way down. What I was saying sounded better than me repeating what I was doing, his review of what I was saying, than I did. Why would you not want that? Why would these men then be considered educated lames? I don't know. But what I do know is the educated lames beat the real niggas. They did. Not only did they beat them, but they're still beating them. And that's why you hear the so-called real niggas giving so much pushback. As Brother Muhammad said, anything worthwhile you're going to get pushback from. I get it. I understand. But it just doesn't seem to make sense, especially considering that these same men who consider themselves hood or ratchet or ghetto or real N-words, they don't want their children to be like that. They don't want their children to grow up and be like they were. What self-respect? I don't want my children to be like I was as a child. I don't. I definitely don't want that. That's why I find so many different things for them to do to place that energy. As Brother Muhammad said, there shouldn't be any pushback. I mean, we should unify. And those of you all preaching the ignorance that we see on YouTube, the back and forth, that's, you're divisive. Even after I asked the brother long enough, Brother Muhammad, who talks and speaks from a place of love, at some point you got to do what you got to do. You heard that. I personally believe those who are predators in the Black community, they deserve nothing better than death. Those who prey upon our children, they prey upon these women who bring them in their households. And the next thing you know, these young girls have been made victims. And oftentimes the young boys have been made sexual victims of these men. That's the Pookie and the Ray Ray that I'm talking about. Because see, it takes a Pookie to make a Pookie. And oftentimes, even outside of the home, this image that is sold to young men of Black masculinity, which they feed into, this false bravado that they feed into. That's why you can have a child who's raised in the suburbs who thinks being a man is sleeping with a whole bunch of women and robbing and killing and jacking and murdering. It takes a Pookie to make a Pookie. We need to get rid of that image. There must be a line drawn in the sand. We have to, at some point, make them realize, hey, this is not working again. We won the war. The lovely ladies have submitted. They went to Kevin Samuels to try to see what they can do. They are whooping our butt, Kevin. What do we need to do? You need to lower your expectations, sweetheart. That's basically what Kevin said. You need to lower your expectations. The expectations are too high. He is doing what any good lawyer would do. Help you see the reality of your case. Ma'am, I know you want to get off free, but they caught you with the gun. It was missing the same amount of bullets that were in your husband after you shot him. Your fingerprints were over. As a matter of fact, they got a videotape of you doing the crime. I know you want to get off, but you need to lower your expectations and hope you get life instead of the death penalty. He's doing the same thing with these lovely ladies. Ma'am, you are a size 16 at best. You have 4 children by 3 different men. You would be lucky to get a man who would even take you and marry you, much less this multimillionaire that you think you're entitled to. Kevin Samuel simply teaches these women to lower their expectations. But guess what happened? They had to do something because they lost over here. We won the gender war or the negotiations, and they realized just how little leverage they had. Between the brothers, 54% or 51% of brothers saying, I'm not dating, I don't have any children, I'm not getting married. Women not even getting spoken to in public. They had to go do something. In walks Kevin Samuels, and he did it brilliantly and dressed very well. Now, if he was some pimp with a purple hat and a purple suit and gold chain, talk about, yeah, baby, you know, blah, 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 you need to do that, y'all wouldn't have a problem with him. If Kevin Samuels was some slick talking country pimp from somewhere, y'all giving women the same advice that he's giving them now, y'all wouldn't have a problem with it. Y'all would have said, yeah, he just keeping it real. Because you gravitate to that sort of dysfunction like a hog gravitates to slop. And that says more about you than anything else. Us as a people, us as a culture. And that's unfortunate. And it's more than unfortunate. The young brother TLA, the lead attorney. I wish I had such a consuming personality. The man is entertaining. He is ready for TV, just like Mr. Samuels. So not only are they changing the image of black men, but they're doing it with style and class. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. So here you have an image consultant and a lawyer, not a comedian, right? Not some fake actor, not some court jester, but you got black men who are really professional leading the charge in reclaiming our image. These are not people that the dominant society has put up. These are men, individuals who took it upon their own to step out into the public using this YouTube platform to talk about issues that black people are facing. It's not Kevin Hart or one of these sold out actors from Hollywood that'll do anything and say anything and aren't qualified to talk to anybody about anything. These are learned men. And we get a chance to look at that and listen to them. It's a privilege. These people come from the grassroots. It's a privilege. And then what they do is not only entertaining, but educational. Thank God for them. And oh my God, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson is a professor in the California State University system. And he teaches Black male studies. And he takes his time on a regular basis to speak to us and teach us. Me too. So it's not just for young men, for all men. We're learning from these men. So not only do you have a black man speaking and teaching and people recognizing his brilliance, but you also have other black men benefiting from his brilliance. See, it's one thing to have a professor like Dr. T. Hasan Johnson locked away in somebody's white college somewhere. Well, yeah, they know he's brilliant, but they keeping him a secret, and they're keeping him away from the people who need him the most, his own black brothers and sisters. We get a chance to see him every day. This is a good thing. So why is it that we're getting so much pushback from the so-called real N-words? It makes no sense. These are traitors. As Brother Muhammad said, anybody who does not want to see black men and black people in general do well, who has a problem with that, you're a traitor. Now, there's degrees to your treachery. You're not Benedict Arnold treachery, but a traitor nonetheless. Dr. Ronald Neal, the Green Gorilla, the G with the PhD, two other men from academia. How can we be upset that they're here? How does that even, how is this, why is this even a thing? You brothers should be happy that brothers from academia are coming in here. You should be happy that you have these people. This has done nothing but expand this space. And now I see you brothers scrambling for credit. You scrambling for who came up with this talking point and that talking point, and who started this first and who started that first. White folks started this first. This is their platform. Matter of fact, if you look at the fine print, everything you put on here is owned by them. This is their stuff. They can broadcast it all over the world. There's nothing you can do about it. So what are you fighting for? It's very similar to when black men used to fight over streets that they didn't own. Buildings and blocks that they didn't own, that they didn't control. Don't you brothers think it's a waste of time? How about we just be looking out for the betterment of all of us? And whoever contributes, contributes. For the betterment of all of us. It's opposed to who did it first? Who did? Why? What does it matter if we all win? That's like trying to ask, well, who should get more credit? The person that scored the first touchdown in a close game, or the person that scored the last touchdown in a close game? What does it matter? Think about that. Think about that. Now, I'm appreciative of what the brothers are doing in changing the narrative. But unfortunately, what I find is that a lot of times when black men who are well-spoken and educated begin to rise, black men who are not similarly situated will say things like, oh, that's part of the talented 10th. Oh, they sold out. Oh, they're boule. Everybody's boule. You guys say men who are successful because of education are boule. Men who are successful because of playing sports are boule. Men who are successful because of entertainment, they're all sold out. Seems like anybody who's successful, more successful than you, is a sellout for some of these guys. Are you starting to see a pattern here? I am. I'm starting to see a pattern here. And it's a pattern of jealousy. Let me get this straight right now. This is not 1900. It's not 1965. Things have changed. At this point in the United States, as far as black people are concerned, we are all the talented 10th. What do I mean by that? The 42 million Africans that live on this planet, the 42 million Africans that live in this country are just a small sample of the 2 billion that are worldwide. The reason that Africans keep coming to this country is because African Americans have proven that there is success to be had for Africans in this country. African Americans are the most rich, or the richest, most educated group of Africans on this planet. As I said before, 60% of black men have reached the middle class or higher by the time they reach middle age. This so-called notion of the talented 10th argument is from 150 years ago, and it no longer applies. As far as the Africans from overseas are concerned, all of us here in the United States are the talented 10th. That's why they want to come over here. So it's the pot calling the kettle black. Just think about that. Think about that. And W.E.B. Du Bois would agree with me if he was here. This is not 1900 when you got the majority of black folks living on farms, can't read. You got iPhones that can house entire libraries in them. You got 4, 5, 6-year-old children who can type faster than some of these older people. And access to the World Wide Web gives them access to all the information that we have throughout history. The rules that applied 150 years ago do not apply now. The talented 10th is all of you black people in the United States. So let's not continue to throw rocks at each other about who's better off than who. We are all better off than our African brothers around the world. Think about that. Compare yourself to your brothers who are living in South Africa or Tanzania. Hell, right next door in Jamaica or Haiti. Compare your life to their life and ask yourself whether or not you're better off than they are. You are all talented 10th, black men and women in this country. Think about that. Now, again, I'm going to open the chat room. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Shout out to Lucifer Ratzinger. Let's go ahead and go through this. I want to make sure I give a shout out to all my guys. If y'all appreciate this, man, hit the #1 button, man. If you like this, you appreciate what was done here today. Those two magnificent speakers, those two brothers who spoke plainly and eloquently about the reality of what's going on, not just in YouTube, but in the world. Big shout out to my man, Big JXXX said, how can men win the gender war when no laws or class action cases are passed for young men and boys? You still have men, veterans living under bridges and boys being miseducated in schools. Well, see, brother, what the gender war did was open the eyes of black men and made us realize that we have power in these relationships, that the women are not the prize. That was the main thing. In addition, we got a chance to expose the simps, isolate the simps, and explain to the rest of these brothers what a simp is. And so now that is the case, these simps are being ostracized and called out for helping facilitate some of the bad behavior of these women. And that's why things are beginning to change. So we did win the gender war, or I call it a negotiation. We definitely have the upper hand at this point. as I said before, now you got the young ladies looking for advice from people like Kevin Samuels. So what we gonna do, sir? We weren't listening before, but now we listening because winter is upon us. All right. My man Rich Turner said, subscribe to L.A.R. movement, brother. That's right. Andre Hackett, all praises, dude. Yes, amen. Sam Major, facts, we won both wars. Urban Eagle, thank you so much. Yoda Darnell, thank you too. W. Alfonso, you guys come in. I want to hear what you have to say. The link is in the chat room. Mod, put the link to the chat room. I want to hear what the brothers got to say. MC Recovery, man, my brother from my hometown, man. He said, I sent this video to UHM West Coast Committee members. We have an event of gun controlling coming up in April 2020. The Tina Tyler having with Peace in the Street. Okay, cool. Shout out to you, man. Always good to have you here. W. Alfonso, thank you so much. My man Lucifer Ratzinger, thank you, sir. Who else? Again, Lucifer, good looking out, man. I appreciate you, brother. Did y'all like that? Kenneth Williams, y'all like having L.A.R. and Brother Muhammad here? Y'all like that? If you like that, hit the W. Let me see. Damian Wade, productive black men, women, families, communities. We have to cut off the ratchet segment of our community and go our own way. Yeah, man. What can you do? You can't work with everybody. I can't move with everybody. I can't do it. Some people I just can't work with. You know, if you're one of these people who's taking advantage of children and women, and I can't work with you. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. You understand? It's not something I can do. Shout out to my man Vintage Negro. How you doing today, sir?
You doing, brother?
I'm good, man. So we've had some interesting conversations over the past couple of days. Good to see you back in here. Shout out to Lucifer, my man Damian Wade, Black Chain Streaming Theta. Let me see another one. Pocket Watcher with JT, Real Account Reacts. Shout out to Uncle D.
That's my boy right there.
Okay, okay, cool. Big Will 9421. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Life. Lucifer Ratzinger, my man, always in. Thank you. Super Sticker Broken Blade. Chuck Higgins, thank you, sir. Lucifer, let me see. Who else? Got all my guys, man. Man, I appreciate my guys, man. So, brother, what are your thoughts on the conversation earlier? Anything that was said, and specifically what L.A.R. had to say? I hope people watched the video that he put up the other day. But what are your thoughts, man?
Oh, yeah, I really didn't get to watch a whole lot of it. I really didn't really get to see a lot. So I don't know. I think we did win the war, kind of. But I think we still have a lot of work to do.
Why do you think the brothers? And I asked you some of the same questions I asked Brother Muhammad and L.A.R. Why do you think there's so much pushback from brothers who come on YouTube and have suits on and speak, you know, articulately and are well spoken? Why is that a problem?
Well, number one, they don't want the status quo to go away. They're pretty much running roughshod over right now. They don't want that to disappear. Number two, they're jealous of successful men. That's all it is.
I need you to explain more, brother, because see, at a certain point, I was a Pookie myself.
Right.
And I don't know exactly when I stopped being a Pookie. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, depending on who you ask, I'm still a Pookie. You see what I mean? So I need to understand. I need to understand this mentality. Like, don't you want us to look better? Wouldn't anybody who loves black men, who loves himself, want us to be be presented in the best image that we can in the world? Isn't that a good idea?
That is a very good idea. I think that's what needs to happen. But unfortunately, what you have with a lot of our not black men in particular, but Pookies and Ray Rays, they don't necessarily want that image to disappear.
But why, brother? But I mean, what benefit did they get from that? Being seen as a derelict, a criminal, a thug. What benefit did they get from that?
I think they want to be seen that way, because of the women, basically. I mean, because of to be truthful. That's what a lot of black women like. As far as men come, they like someone like with a criminal element, someone that's been in and out of jail their entire lives. That's what a lot of, I'm not going to say most, but that's what a good majority of black women like.
Let's examine that though. Is it that they like them because they're criminals, or they like them because that is considered the epitome of masculinity in the black community at this time?
And you may have a point. That may be considered what's most masculine
at this time, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that is what it is.
And so now it seems the jealousy has arose because, and as L.A.R. pointed out in his video, now these ladies are saying, you know, we went through this COVID-19 thing, and you might look masculine, but we about to get put out this house. So you're not doing what men are supposed to do. Whereas I'm looking at this man named Kevin Samuels, or this man named the lead attorney, and Ronald, Neal, and these other young brothers like Poorman Podcast and Mediocre Tutorials, and they got money. They making money. As a matter of fact, they started to look a lot more attractive than you do. They look more like men than you do at this point. You see the point there, brother?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I think that's what's happening. I think what was masculine is no longer seen as masculine by these women because some reality has checked in. See, the thing is, and I always talk to these brothers about this red pill, and a lot of brothers think they understand that, but it's really just sociology and female nature. And we finally caught up with the reality of it. If you put women in a situation where they no longer need men for anything, then they're going to pick the ones they want, not the ones they have to. So what are the ones they want? They're going to basically focus on pure sexual attraction, not for long-term purposes, but to please their eye. So, you know, what do? You get what you want. You don't need a man. You just need him for sex. So get the best one. You get the best toy you can. If I didn't need a car, I'd be riding around in a motorcycle with a drop top, some kind of drop top car all day. But it rains outside, so I need a car to get back and forth. What I'm trying to explain is they get to pick and choose what they want, and because they don't need you, as opposed to dealing with what they have to. What they need, there was a time when they needed men. Now they don't need men because the government supplies so much. So they get to pick and choose what they want. But after COVID-19, right, and years of picking what you want, now after COVID-19, they're like, oh, I need a real man now, a man that can pay these bills. So their idea of what is manly and what is masculine has changed. That's what I think. But anyway.
I don't know, Uncle D. I'm gonna kind of have to disagree with you on that. I think it's.
Please do.
I think
go ahead, bro.
Like the same type of men. Only thing that has changed is their inability to really take care of themselves on a higher level, on high as a level as they could before. So I don't think the preference in men have changed. I think it's just, you know, now we need someone. We need someone to save us now.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think they will always, if just like you said, if parameters were set right where they don't need a man, they're gonna pick Pookie and Ray Ray every time.
So it would be the same thing as I guess you're saying that physical beauty, and I'm not saying all the Pookie and Ray Rays have physical beauty, but just like men choose beautiful women, period.
Right.
Not to marry all the time, not to have your children, but just for those physical needs, you want a beautiful woman. I get it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's dissect this a little bit more. Devin, what are your thoughts on it? Uh-oh, you got to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, definitely the government stepping in as daddy and providing them with their material needs, and then them having the nerve to call themselves independent after they're dependent on the government. You know, maybe their needs have shifted, but I think it's a little deeper than that, man. Because even a woman who's getting all of her bills paid by the government should still want better than a gangster. They should still want better than a Pookie and a Ray Ray.
No,
That is,
we got to establish, because I want you to, what Vintage Negro said is that the jealousy that the Pookies have for the so-called educated lanes at this point is because the women are now finding themselves more attracted to the men with the suits on who are well-spoken, who look like they can handle their business. So that's the context in which this conversation is coming up. And so you're saying, Devin.
We are a reflection of their failure. Now, we can blame it on the women giving us attention or not giving us attention, but whether the women, first of all, the women that want them, I don't want. Okay.
Right.
The women that want them, I don't want. Right? So it ain't even about the women. No, what we show to them is what they are afraid of. They're afraid of getting out and confronting the world as men on equal par with all other men, and they're taking the cop out. It's easy to be a G. It don't cost nothing. All you got to do is wear your pants wrong. That's all you got to do. And be ignorant.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. And so it's easier to do that. And so you default to that. And the kind of low quality woman that appreciates that, well, you know, that is what it is, man. That's a ratchet. He's a Pookie or a Ray Ray, and she's a ratchet. And this has always been a split community, man. The black race in America has always been divided, except back when we were growing up. I was born in 65. Back when I was growing up, we had a pejorative N-word within the black community that we call them, and we are black men. We are black people. We are black people, and we always, just like Chris Rock said, right? There's black people and there's N-words, but that is from within our community. That's not the white pejorative definition. It's not the black affectionate definition. It's the black pejorative definition.
Okay, so you brought something up, right? You saying we've always acknowledged that division, but it used to be that was just a tiny section.
That's right.
But how did that tiny section become synonymous with blackness? Because there was a time before when blackness was about family, going to church. It was about raising your children. But now blackness is this ghetto, ratchet, Pookie, Shanae behavior. What happened? I have my theory, but what are your thoughts?
My theory is that the people from outside of our society, the people that we trust too much with an inordinate amount of influence over our culture, have taken their music and everything else, movies and everything else, and glorified that ignorant level element of our society to be the representation of blackness.
But why would we gravitate to that if we know it's not true?
Like each and every individual one of us is personally interested in either being a rap star or an actor or some selfish, childish aspiration that only that community can give us. So like Whoopi Goldberg, we spend our lives trying to protect them and not say anything about them and not say anything about the damage they're doing to our children by pumping that garbage into their ears and having our children bobbing their head to the rhythm of their own self-annihilation.
Okay.
And then we still end up getting screwed, just like Whoopi.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Myron Magnus in a minute, but it seems to me what's happening is we have a social change. We see us now reverting back to when black was classy, when black was about family. And I see that from people like the lead attorney. Black was intellectual. I see that from people like Dr. T. Hasan Johnson. Black was sophisticated, like Kevin Samuels, educated, Ronald, Neal, the G with the PhD. That's what I see happening. And I want to see that happen because that's a safer image for us than thug gangster, ratchet ghetto. You understand? And if we as black men do it, then the women will be forced to follow. Go ahead and finish up, and then we're gonna bring in Devin, bring in Myron Mangus. Go ahead.
Those of us who occupy this educated element of our culture, especially the brothers who are attorneys like yourself and like the lead attorney, need to form an anti-defamation league to defend our culture against the people who invented the anti-defamation league.
But brother, I'm talking about the ones in our own group that are pushing back against black men and black women changing our image for the better, becoming something more wholesome. That's the question that I have. The internal politics. There should be no pushback to this. I believe
as long as the TV and the radio says that it's cool, our children are going to believe that it's cool.
All right, let's go ahead and go to Myron Magnus. Sir, the floor is yours. What would you like to add?
Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Welcome, sir.
I'm the least educated person here. I'm no more than an autodidact, but I truly believe we learn three ways, and that's sight, repetition, and pain. And we've been a lot of us have been systematically deprived to a degree where they're willing to take all those positions that the man at the top right who was just speaking before me spoke about and undermine our own. So to answer your question is, is there a pushback to people like gentlemen like you taking the forefront in that image? It's because
I'm a little too hood and ratchet and ghetto. I'm a little grimy.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Speaking from a person like me who has no degree, brother, and also I'm Boxologics United, so you know who I am. It's a pushback because of that, because it makes them reflect on their own failures as a person.
Well, there it is.
I'm very, cut dry, straight to the chase, and that's simply what it is. It's a self-esteem issue, self-esteem and self-confidence. And our enemies have been very, very, very efficient and successful in putting the bottom feeders of us to the top and making the mass of us look at them and say, the kids say, wow, if they're in that position, that they're doing something right, then I must act like that.
You gotta dig a little deeper into what you said earlier, brother. Last night I had one brother said, if we're not at the table, we're gonna be on the menu. What you just said right there was equal to that. That I've heard some profound things said on my page. I've done some profound things. You guys, I did a military show.
Did I say something wrong? Was that okay?
You said something brilliant.
That's what's going on.
You basically said the reason that they're getting pushed back, the reason you get a Kevin Samuels and a TLA and a Dr. T. Hasan Johnson and a Ron Neal and a Green Gorilla and a Kosher Clinician and a Mediocre Tool.
Absolutely, sir.
The reason there's pushback is because it makes these other brothers look within themselves and it touches their own insecurities. Elaborate on that, please.
And let me elaborate from that from my own personal experience. Like I say, I don't have a degree. I was in the Air Force, but my uncle, long time ago, probably back in 1995, said, Myron, why aren't you a millionaire yet? You're the smartest person in the family. And this is on my grandmother's life. This is a true story. And I looked at him as he has his own construction company. I helped him to build it. I said, I guess because of fear. But it was something that was instilled in me a long time ago, fear that really came from my mother. And our volatile relationship and a lot of things. It's a lot of layers and it's very, very deep. But I was very, very fortunate because my mother was the only female with 4 brothers, and my uncles raised me as well. So it balanced all the trauma that I was receiving from her. I was able to travel at a young age to Germany in high school and live abroad and all that opened my mind up. So even though I never went to school, never went to college, I was in the Air Force, but I was able to see a world. I've been to 18 different countries in my life, and that's been the best education for me. But a lot of men, I can say it, even from my being honest to myself and the self-assessment, how I could see a lot of guys maybe feel that way. I want to push back because of their own reflection of how they failed in their life and say, okay, these guys came from the same background you did, okay, but they didn't bite into the bullshit that you did.
Yeah, and brother, you okay? So check this out: the trigger mechanisms.
Yes, sir.
When these young men, the so-called Pookie and Ray Rays, when they saw Kevin Samuels who we know is this well-spoken, polished gentleman, speaking to one of their own, Nicki Minaj. Oh my God, they were triggered. And now come to find out he's in this Future video, but that's one of their own too. They were triggered because, see, and L.A.R. brought this up in his video, and I really want you all to check out L.A.R. Movement's video from Friday. That thing should be viral. And he said it basically like this, and I'm paraphrasing. He said they see those two as one of their own. And when you have somebody like Kevin Samuels, basically they're validating Kevin Samuels. That means, oh my God, well, what about us? What happens to us if these are the type of black men that get validated? Go, brother. How does that affect your self-esteem? Let's hear it.
Okay, here's another aspect, a way to look at it, in my opinion, is that we growing up, like in school, when I grew up, I went to 4 different high schools. Unfortunately, I had to travel a lot, and a Catholic school a little bit, school abroad. But the nerds was getting picked on, the black kids who were the nerd. You know what I mean? And it was being picked on by the guys who wanted to be jocks and not want to be nerds. But they was backwards. The nerds rule the world, whether you want to like it or not the jocks. The nerds rule the world. Nerds don't need big muscles because nerds can buy their own muscle. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we've been completely reversed. Nerds don't need muscles because they can buy the muscle. But we thought we had to be muscles, so we developed our physical and all this other stuff, how we had to be gunplay, all this dumb shit. So many got misled that way, but we really didn't develop what we needed to develop. And that was our critical thinking, our ability of organizational ability, and all this other things that we needed to work on. So we fell into that. And those who picked up on it late, little too late, it wasn't maybe in their late 30s, 40s, it was too late to capitalize on it. They understand, but it still may gravitate and protect those guys because they was once those dudes. Yeah. We really got to do a cleansing of our own selves, and we got to be really truthful in a self-assessment of ourselves and how we calling out our own, because we don't want to really look in the mirror and say, okay, I fucked up for 40 years of my life. I fucked off, I smoked off, I drunked off, okay? And now these men who the first 40 years of their life had it right, they was focused, which is fixated on conquering an undesirable situation every day. When I wasn't focused, they got what they wanted, and they're now living very well off, and I didn't, thinking I was, stuck in my own world and not really maturing as I was supposed to mature. And so now the tables is turning, and now they're upset, and now they don't want to feel a certain type of way.
Thank you so much, Meyer. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna get back. We're gonna do a couple of rounds on this. Alvin Holden, it's good to have you in here. Here's my problem with this whole situation. How can you have a group of men who are not like the men that created this platform complain when men take over the platform that are like the men who created the platform? What I'm saying is, it wasn't a bunch of Pookie and Ray Rays that got together and came up with the algorithms and the codes to create YouTube. It wasn't them. It was a bunch of PhDs and master's degrees and educated men and businessmen who had the foresight to come up with this YouTube platform. Now, I will agree, very early on, then L.A.R. laid it out, you had a couple of professionals here and there, but for the most part, it was dominated by men who didn't have jobs and nothing else to do all that. And so they filled it up with content. And now, since it's been monetized, you got people who actually, you got people like the lead attorney. Hell, you got people like me, I mean, I like making the money, I make it work. But if I can come home and spend a couple hours talking to you guys, it's cool because I'm a businessman. And I'd rather spend my time making money than not making any money.
if I got a choice between sitting up watching TV that's not paying me, or sit for 3 hours, or sitting up here talking to you guys and getting paid for 3 hours, I don't care if it's $5 or $50. I'm a businessman and I'm making business decisions. I've always been like that. I've been trained to be like that. And that's why I'm a successful businessman. Try to always occupy your time gaining. You see what I'm saying? But why is it, Alvin, that these men are angry at men who created this platform, or men like the men who have created this platform are now taking their space in what they call the war of the lames versus the real ninjas? What are your thoughts on that? And shout out to Officer Faulkner. Go ahead.
If I had to put my finger on it,
make it make sense for me, bro. It's not logical. Go ahead.
Well, so men, first of all, we learn, yeah. Like we fall, bump our head a couple of times. We understand how to stay on our feet. We learn. We figure it out. I'm under the impression, and it's my impression, that women communicate with their words. They communicate with their with your reputation, right? It's what you see. All right. I'm under the impression that up until this point, learned men, strong men, have been quietly minding their own business this entire time, and the men, or the pookies, if you want to call them that have been mixed up in these YouTube streets previous, have been mixed up with these ladies, and the way that men engage each other has been in the way that ladies engage with each other, which is not typically how we operate, which is really why I think this whole situation right now has been has kind of hit a fever pitch, because they've usually been able to shame away other men, just like the ladies do, right? Because for me, I was on one of your lives earlier, and I said something like, we need to do what kind of like what the white folks do. We need to get our talented people together, and we need to and I saw someone in the chat be like, oh, you want to be around white folks. And for the longest time, that was always one of the things to try to shut successful black men down. Oh, you want to be around the white folks? It's like, what do you mean? I don't want to step over people coming out of my front yard. I'd like to have a 3-car garage. Maybe I want a pool. I work really hard. Why shouldn't I have those things? And
Officer Faulkner, if you want to come in, y'all make sure Charles Faulkner can get in here. Give him the link, you guys. But go ahead, brother. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all good. It's all good. Shout out to him. Yeah. So those are the type of guys that have been engaging on the internet for the most part. The rest of us have just been calmly, silently watching this entire time. Then come to find out, wait a minute, there's a lot of Kevin Samuels out there. There's a lot of TLAs out there. There's a lot of vintage Negroes out there. There's a lot of Wrench Turners out there. Wait a minute. And then we don't look like these knuckleheads over here, and we don't appreciate what they're saying. And we're finally pushing back. And under normal circumstances, they've been able to shame us out of existence to where we get quiet. This weekend wasn't one of those situations.
And I had my kids this weekend. I heard L.A.R. and then I showed up Monday. Man, people were saying stuff. I'm like, I'm not about to argue with some dudes on the internet. I got other lawyers and judges to talk to. I'm not. Are you kidding me? I get paid for arguing. But I don't know exactly what happened. But what I don't understand again is, how can you be? These are PhDs and professionals taking over YouTube. It was created by PhDs and professionals. It should be expected. It's almost as if, no, you were just a placeholder until they figured it out, so a higher quality of programmer can come in. You see what I mean? That's kind of what I said. We'll get to you in 1 minute, Myron. I want to go through some other people, but let's finish with Alvin. What do you think? It's not logical, but go ahead, brother.
Well, it is actually logical, because again, men don't communicate via look. I gotta move something. I move something. Yeah. I gotta move something. I move something. But if a lady has to move something, she says, "Hey, can you move this over there for me real quick?" Okay, cool. Well, if those are the type of guys and that's the type of stuff that they've been dealing with, suddenly now, all of a sudden, they go to, "Hey, man, will you do this for me?" And we're like, "No."
Right.
Will you stop don't stop talking about no. Unacceptable. We're not going to deal with it. No, I don't want to see a baby mama. I'm not, baby daddies, baby mamas. I'd rather deal with none of those. And they're not used to hearing those kinds of messages. They're not used to hitting the rocks on the.
I got another question for you. Is based on what you said, and then we're going to go to Pastor Mr. Life. Why is it that the shaming doesn't work anymore? Why is it that calling black men with education and money educated lame? Why is that failed this time?
Sir, for the exact same reason why Kevin Samuels has done really well. And I think that people like me started to realize, if you go back and you look into his catalog about how those women argue, they argue the same. Sign language is real. And we see it coming a mile away. It doesn't work anymore. Oh, your mama black, blah, blah, blah. It's a joke now, right? It's like are you triggered? Are you hurt? Are you mad? Right? What would that lady that tried to get on you the other day? What was she trying to say? She was trying, you scared? You scared? You scared? She tried to punk you. And it's like, look, lady, you could talk all you want. Your circumstances ain't changing. You still a baby mama. I'm still over here doing my thing. And guess what? My guys are right behind me. And whatever you did to shame us in the past ain't working no more. So
thank you so much, Alvin. Let's go to Pastor Mr. Life. Sir, what would you like to add to this conversation?
Man, I want to talk about one thing when you all having this particular conversation. I have been on YouTube for about since late last October, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And we've been growing since then, and I've been seeing this going on from, well, I'm gonna just say it, man, from both sides, because I see myself as a tweener. Not quite the Pookie, but I was there back in my day. I did my thing, and I kind of grew myself out the mud, and I became a great man. Do sales, so I still go back and talk to these guys that you all call that, right? So I try to talk to them about becoming a greater man. And there's one thing that I found out when we're talking to men or women that haven't had nothing in their life. They come from the state of lack, the state of not enough resources. So when men as yourself come along, they see you as the invader, and that you want to take the little resources that they already have. So it's coming from the place of lack. They don't think nowhere near the abundance, because they only had that abundance in women, not inside financial resources, not in anything else. So that's the one thing that they can get. And now you all coming along inside their space, inside the YouTube space, which is how they typically get women. And now you are trying to take that away as well. So it's coming from that mindset of lack. They don't understand that there's plenty out there. They're gonna still have they can still get all their Keishas and Bonquishas and Shanikas. They can still have those. They can still get their money. The money is still here to be made for everybody, but it just like when a lion comes inside another lion's territory, now he thinks you're coming to try to take his women and kids. So they got to protect themselves. So I think it's just about us having a conversation, sitting down, doing roundtables with these same guys, and getting everyone to understand that YouTube has $1 trillion, and they are willing to give it out to everybody. And I can't take the women in your city. Only you can get to them. You can only have 2-3 at a time anyway. It doesn't matter.
And see, here's the thing, brother, and I'm going to be frank with you. I'm not sitting down and talking to anybody. Either you get it, because nobody taught me how to get it. I'm gonna get it, and that's what I'm gonna do. And if you don't know how to get it, that's your problem. And it's almost like, as a lawyer, sometimes people complain about my price. Man, you taking 40%? Well, yeah, this is for all those years I went to law school, and that last 22 years of me practicing law that you weren't there for. When you was out partying and hanging out and doing what you do, now you're paying me for that. You're going to pay one way or the other. Now, that's something I want to share with you guys, because here's the thing I want to prove. I want to prove a point to you all. This is a study, and it shows YouTube use over the past 12 years. This was YouTube users in 2012, right? This is 2013, 2014,
So in 2012, it was under 1 billion users. In 2013, it was 1 million users. Here's the Black Manosphere. It stayed about the same all the way up until about 2017, 2018. Now look at it. So it's when it seems as though when these so-called educated lames jumped in, right? That's when it really starts skyrocketing. You see what I mean? And let me go up to this. I want you to check this out too. That's when the users start really showing up, when you start getting higher quality folks in there. You see what I mean? So how do we deal with that, Sage Apprentice? What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
All right, let me go ahead and turn my mic on here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So you've seen everything I've been typing in the chat. I've just been clicking away. Here's the thing that I've been focused on the entire conversation. So I think it goes back to what you all were talking about with Mr. Samuels, Dr. T. Hasan Johnson, the Green Gorilla. These guys are unconventional voices compared to what originally existed in the Black Manosphere. Aside from Mr. BGS Ibmore, who I like to listen to quite a bit.
Right. Yeah.
And he predicted this ages ago. He said that eventually Black women were going to come back to the table. He said eventually the Black Manosphere was going to be thrust into the mainstream. And he asked, how would we deal with the success of the Black Manosphere? The thing I want to talk more or less is how they approached it. So you look at what Kevin Samuels did. He bridged the gap between the mainstream and the Manosphere when no one else was capable of doing it. He got to talk to celebrities, and what most people were expecting was for him to get into an argument with the celebrity he was talking to, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
He kind of assuaged her fears of what she thought she was going to expect, because I think Miss Minaj would have came in on the offensive, had something else happen, had what people expected to happen, but it didn't.
Well, I never expected that to happen.
There were some people.
Because I've listened to Kevin Samuels over the years, and women usually call in. If they're polite, he's polite.
And he's typically very respectful.
Yeah.
I've watched the show quite a bit. He's typically very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
The only time he kind of I'd say, so to speak, goes off on someone is if they disrespect his platform.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes perfect sense, because there's house rules everywhere you go. You don't just go in somebody's house and rub your feet all in their couch. But the thing I'm getting at is that the way that these guys changed the tone of the Manosphere is they started speaking more intelligently. And this is one thing people weren't used to. Like, I remember growing up, my brother and I, we speak largely the same way we speak now, since we were 5 years old, and we grew up in the hood. You don't fit in. You don't fit in when you speak properly, when you read books, when when you care about things like history and science and all that stuff, and how, and your place in the world, like how you fit in, or what the bigger picture is. The thing I put in the chat is the thing I think still holds true. What these guys did, they were thinking 10 steps ahead. Dr. T. Hasan Johnson talks about political issues regarding Black men. Then you got Mr. Kevin Samuels. He's an image consultant. He doesn't deal in relationships, but he talks about the image that Black people have portrayed for so many years and how they can change it, right? Then you have other people that exist outside of the Manosphere. They're talking the same topics, but they have a better way of articulating it that most other people don't. And I don't think these guys' ideas have been heard enough. And now that it's gotten to the point where these guys have come out of the shadows, and the so-called Pookies and Ray Rays have been pushed aside, these guys are naturally jealous, because they're operating like toy soldiers. They can only see about 2 seconds ahead of their red pill rage, whereas all the gentlemen that were operating the way that they are now, that are pushing into the mainstream, that are pushing the Manosphere into the mainstream, they could already see 10 moves ahead. They knew what was coming, and they knew how to manage it.
Yeah. I think there's a reason why a lot of these guys, especially the ones who hide their identity, there's a reason why they don't want the Manosphere to be pushed into the mainstream. I think there's a reason, number one, why they're hiding,
their identity, and they don't want that sort of exposure. Would you like to elaborate on that, Sage Apprentice? Because I know you've been here a while. Go ahead.
I think the reason they don't want the exposure is because what do you think about people who've been failing for a long time? What do they fear the most? Success, right? Because success comes with more responsibility. You can't just rise to the top and expect to stay there without somebody trying to knock you off your pedestal. It's a constant battle to stay on top, and these guys know that. They're not ready to fight.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. You hang in there. Let's do another couple of rounds. Vintage Negro, you've heard the brothers talk. We're digging deep into this issue. Where are things going now? Because here's the thing: if you got people like, and I use the analogy of this is a flotilla of battleships. You got Kevin Samuels and a couple of others who are like aircraft carriers. I consider myself a battleship off to the side somewhere with some Navy SEALs, because I got a dedicated crew of subscribers to my channel. Like, my guys are dedicated, and I'm telling you, 90%, and I checked, I thought it was 20%, but it's like 92% of my followers are men, Black men, and only about 8% of women. So that lets me know I've done what I wanted to do, because I want to be a leader of lions. I don't want to have a whole bunch of women follow me, because they're fickle. They're like the wind. They're with you one day, they're not with you the next. I'd rather keep it just how it is with that 92% of men, because what does that mean? They're vehement. If I say, hey fellas, this color purple musical crap is gonna make us look horrible, I want you guys to get your Twitter, your Facebook, and I want you to bombard them with negative comments about how this is just going to assassinate the reputation of Black men. The guys are going to do it. I already know they will, because we're on the same page. Vintage Negro, where do you think this thing is going, man? With this, where are we going now? Go ahead.
Well, pretty much what your guy before was talking to me, saying we're out of Chitlin circuit, basically, for this Manosphere thing. Now there's more intellectual, better articulate men talking about issues within the Black community, and no one wants to listen to some troglodyte, testosterone driven person speak about things most of the time. Most of the time they're looking for, most of the time when people are looking for some type of authority, some type of education.
Right.
They're not looking for they're not looking for like an average person. That is a misnomer. They're looking for an authority, an educated person to tell them things. So I think the Chitlin circuit is over. That is over. And those Pookie and Ray Ray types, or those lower rung of Black men, they're going to be they're pushed to the side, and they're going to have to stay within their parameters. There's nothing they can do about it.
Wow. So their fear is real. All right, let's go to Myron. Myron, brother, go ahead, Myron. It's on you, man. What else you got to say, bro?
Okay, so to jump on what the gentleman beforehand was talking about, as far as how come they don't show their faces, that's because I've been making Facebook videos since 2015. But I was just making it from my passion and my from my heart. I wasn't even thinking about monetizing anything, and I was doing pretty well. But a lot of people don't show their face, particularly in your comment section and on YouTube and all that, because a certain integrity has to come with you showing your face, and a certain amount of responsibility. And we must admit that a lot of these guys, or let me just make aware that a lot of these people that don't show their face in the comment sections aren't even Black. And we have moles. So some of them are there just to stir up the pot. So it'd be wise, I believe, to spread around that we shouldn't even pay attention to a lot of them.
But what about the content creators who don't show their faces? What do you think about them?
That's
because they sound Black.
That was the first part. That was the first part, talking about if they don't show their face, then there's a certain amount of integrity and responsibility that comes with showing your face. I think it's fear that they could be, the fear might come out that they could be just hustlers. It could be just really here to make money.
Yeah.
And not really pushing, not really going to really support and back.
Do you think they're jealous too? Because like they see the Cash Apps and they see the PayPal.
I believe.
And they like, man, I could use that $50 right now to pay this gas bill. And then maybe they think people like Kevin Samuels, especially people like Dr. Hasan Johnson, they're already successful. I should have that money. But then they
may not.
Go ahead.
They may not show their face because they may look at your nice, elegant background, sir. You look like you look like the beautiful chair, the background. You look like you've done well for yourself.
Right.
And a lot of them may not want to show their background. I do believe with the men who have been successful previous to coming on to YouTube and social media, they're bringing a level of professionalism, professionality to their videos, their presentation, delivery, and everything that will force those who've been here quite some time to step up their freaking game, and maybe they're too lazy to do that.
Yeah, my man D. Gray says this: a man can lose his business after stating his opinion. So that's another thing. Maybe they work for somebody. See, I work for
say they're moles.
Yeah, I get that too. But I work for myself, and yeah, I've had some pushback. A lot of these lovely ladies they don't like what I say, but I'm not afraid of them. They ain't gonna do nothing. I mean, nothing they can do. That's why I'm saying, like, what are you gonna do about it? You gonna call my boss? They just gonna refer your line to me. You see what I'm saying? But for a lot of men, maybe, and see, it's almost like this, Myron. Some of these dudes are living double lives. They pro-black on YouTube, and then they got their good government job during the day.
Yes, sir. So
go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the integrity and responsibility is a big part.
Yes.
Because they're gonna have to take accountability and responsibility for what they've said on YouTube.
Yeah.
But see, I think if you're gonna be all the way in this, you got to be all the way in it.
Yeah.
And people like you, Kevin Samuels, people who've shown their face, show they can raise the bar and raise their level of how they do things. It's intimidating for one, and it will force them to have to do that. But I think that's what needs to be done. Well, you have to raise the level of bar so they can reach to that. And if their pride, if their shame or whatever gets in the way of allowing them to ask for help, or to try to achieve that, then they're just going to be left behind.
I think my situation is different, man. I started off on YouTube, and being a lawyer, the vast majority of my followers were like lawyers and politicians and all these folks I went to school with. And this, of course, some of my homies from back in the day. But I invited the conflict. Like, I show my face so I can get smoked. You see what I mean? I want to see what you're going to do. I'm going to put this up real quick. But, man, those of you guys, and D. Gray might remember, man, back around 2012, 2013, 2014, I was on fire in the comment section of my Facebook page. And what I basically did was took all of that information. I literally sometimes would cut and paste some of the conversations I had on Facebook and put them in the rough drafts of these books. So this book is not just my knowledge. It is the comprehensive knowledge of all of those black men and women and opinions that they had that I went back and forth with for like 5 or 6 years. And so you got literally millions and millions of comments that I've gone. So I invited the smoke because I know when you punch somebody in the face, I say this in my book, the best way to get somebody's attention is to punch them in the mouth. You can't, if you want somebody to tell you the truth and tell you what they really feel, go ahead and insult them. And what's going to happen, they're going to come at you with all guns blazing. And that's when you get the best out of them. So when I do what I do, it's because I want you to give me your best. I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to hold back. I want you to fight me with everything you have. And that makes me better. That's why it seemed like I just jumped on YouTube and it's like, this dude already got his rap down because I've been doing it. You understand what I'm talking about, Myron? All right. Yeah. So yeah, mine is I'm here for the trouble and the drama. But anyway, man, Alvin, What's up, brother? I want to make another round. So, Alvin, what you got to say? Then we're gonna go to Pastor, then Sage Apprentice. But go ahead.
I would just build on to what y'all have been saying.
Yeah.
And tell a perspective of my own, just to kind of bring it full circle. So middle class family, both my parents, hardworking people, you know, and again, part of my whole issue is everything that I've always seen in the media never matched up what I saw with my own eyes. And I was never around a lot of Black people. Obviously, I'd go see my family, or I'd go to places, but where I actually lived, I was never around that many Black people. And always seeing what was always out there, my whole thing was like, look, I just need to do my work, keep my head down, I'll be successful. Keep my head down, I'll be successful. Abide by the rules, I'll be successful. Play the game, I'll be successful. You know, stand on my own. I don't bend for anybody, but I've always kind of kept my nose clean that way. And what was happening was that I was still running into trouble. And I'm like, I pay my taxes. I work. I don't miss I don't miss anything. I'm always, and how is it? And then, you know, I drove a Corvette, and I got pulled over here in San Francisco in the Marina District, which is a pretty affluent area. And I'm like, I'm a successful guy, and this cop pulled me over like I was nobody, and he snatched me out of the car in the rain. And if it wasn't for a passerby white lady to stop and question the cop while he had me out on the curb, I don't know where I would be right now. And that was kind of my, like, I think we all call it the inward wake up call, right? Where we're like, I was just like, damn, like I can't win for losing. Like no matter where I go, no matter what I do, no matter what, I'm always going to run into this shit. And to kind of bring it full circle, now, what was happening was that I realized how easily my things could be taken away from me.
Yeah.
I bought a dream car. I worked my ass off. I had the most money in the bank I ever had in my whole life. And this cop pulled me out of my car and set me on the curb like I was the guys we're speaking of. and that for me was kind of a situation where I'm like, okay, well, I need to keep my mouth shut. And I think that most of the men that are speaking up lately fall into that category. We realize how quickly something can be taken away from us. And speaking up online had, up until recently, when we've had examples of men being able to do it successfully without being taken down, shouted down, is a new thing. I again, up until this, it's not like I haven't really heard the messages that I've been hearing before, but they've been these muted voices, right? Pushed to the back. They're incels. They're crazy. They're this, they're that. They're over there. And the Pookies and the Ray Rays that would have been speaking this, you know, kind of RP message or whatever this message is, have been like, yeah, but in the background doing the crazy and talking about standing on their square and being real and all that. And that's why they'll never get the voice in the mainstream, because it's like, you can't even see past your own anger so that you can get through the door to have the conversation to help yourself. And that's why there's been a glass ceiling on a lot of these creators previous, but now you have a Kevin Samuels who is, you know, suit and a tie and can give you the message with real smooth, like, and people can absorb it, and the ladies can play with it a little bit, and people are regurgitating it. And Kevin Samuels has created a whole economy. All the TikToks and the response videos and all of that. Now that's something that was never, ever available to us. Now suddenly we can speak, and as long as we mind, and that even comes down to the rules, people being able to follow rules and regulations, right? So even the creators saying the R word or saying some of these words that YouTube doesn't like, some of these knuckleheads can't even keep their vernacular correct. They can't even say the right thing so that they can monetize their own pages, and then get upset when they have small pages. Well, it's like, well, if you yelling and screaming and cussing in the mic all the time.
Yeah, all that anger and all that venting, I get it, but that's where the professionalism come in. 100%. See, that's the difference.
And the jealousy.
Let me tell you something, guys. My father passed away in November. My mentor passed away Monday, the one that taught me how to practice law.
Yeah.
I just found out maybe 1 hour before I got on this page. You see, as a professional, I have something to do. I'm not going to let that affect me. You understand what I'm saying? There's a message that I've promised to deliver to you all. I'm not going to sit up here and talk for a half hour about this, that, and the other. I'm going to be professional. Now, if you don't like your life and then you use YouTube to get on it and vent, and then you're angry, and then you get labeled an ignorant person who's disruptive, then you got to accept what comes with that. You see, it's about professionalism. I'm sure Kevin has had bad days. TLA has had bad days. Dr. Hasan Johnson, Dr. Ronald, Neal, we've all had bad days, but what you see is a certain level of professionalism. And I think black men and women appreciate that, as opposed to somebody getting on spouting off and angry. Now, before we go any further, man, it's something important I want to share with you guys. This is very, very important. And Alvin reminded me of this. So there's a story that just popped up. Okay. This is and I want you guys to pay very close attention to this. This is another black man who got shot. Okay. Another black man who is, listen to how the police pitch this. Police shoot and kill man suspected of robbery in North Houston. A man suspected of robbery. Not a man who was caught robbing anybody, but basically you had a black man sitting in his car, minding his business, and the police rolled up on him and shot him and killed him. Now, we talk about Pookie and Ray Rays, and I said something the other night, and one of the brothers said, I said basically that we are never going to be able to escape the reputation of the lowest one among us. This young man whose name they didn't mention, and I'm going to try to see if I can get Brother Muhammad back on the phone. This brother had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and was studying to become a lawyer. You understand what I'm saying? Let me run that back. This young black man, he's actually on the internet on his Instagram page with him holding his degree from Sam Houston State in front of him. And the police rolled up on him and shot and killed him, saying that he was a robbery suspect while he was in his car studying. Now, the news media is not telling you about this. They're not saying anything about this at all. I'm going to follow up on this study once I get some more information. But what I'm telling you guys is that the reason there's no see, his reputation as a black man is not as a young man with a master's degree studying for law school. What they think happened was when you say robbery suspect, oh, that's just another Pookie that got shot. But this was an educated lane, so to speak. Just like Alvin, just like me when the police pulled me over. Not pulled me over, but pulled them guns out on me at the ATM machine. You understand what I'm saying? So this is why it's important for black men for us educated black men to have won this war in the manosphere. Because see, here's the thing. The media fight is no longer on mainstream TV. How many times do you even watch TV anymore? The vast majority of people are on YouTube all day, on Instagram. Now you see how important us taking control of this media source is. I think you guys understand that. And the fact that black men have now taken control of it, black men of substance, educated black men we can go about helping change that reputation that we have. But Alvin, what else do you have to say? And then we're going to go to Pastor.
I mean, just that I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah.
And you I liked your analogy about the battleship and and the kind of battle groups that have starting to coagulate around the sphere. And I think that I think this last situation needed to happen so that the people on the other side, and when I say the other side, I mean, and I don't want to, and I'm going to stop using the Pookie and the Ray Ray term.
What term would you prefer we use, bro?
I don't know. I don't know. Because here's the thing, right? because at the end of the day, it's some of our uncles, it's cousins, it's daddies, it's whatever. You know, some of them are on the edge. Some of them, you know, they can swing both. And
white folks call them white trash. What we gonna call ours?
I don't be holding. I will not be responsible for any of that. I just, you know, it's because what happened. Because we want to help them, right? We do. We don't care. I don't know. I don't care. I personally don't care. I don't care. They could drop off the face of the earth as far as I'm concerned, because it's caused me nothing but grief. But I'm black, y'all black, we black. And if a couple of conversations like this can get someone to take a second look. There's a gentleman that spoke out pretty strongly against you earlier this week, and he was pretty fiery about his opinion. But
he's entitled to his opinion.
Exactly. But what I saw was him go on a bunch of other different places and have some conversations, and it took about 3 days. And I was like, let me just linger over to this guy's channel and just see. And this particular guy, he was soft shoeing and backpedaling and kind of going back on a lot of the tough talk that he was talking a couple of days ago. So the reality is that I think now that a bunch of them have bumped their heads, I think they realize, ooh, okay, this is we can't argue. We might need to join these gentlemen, because we just might get left behind, which is why I myself I've kind of tampered my own energy just a little bit, you know, because I am offended. I am offended. I have just like the story you just the guy that got the no-knock warrant recently, the whatever, they're picking us off in the street like it's nothing. And all of them is, if you read all of the subject titles for all of the newspaper articles, is suspect this, suspect that, suspect this, suspect that. I read an article that the guy that they killed, they said, oh, we captured the guy that they were looking for when they killed the other guy. It's like, what do you mean? So you didn't even tell the story right. Like you said you arrested the guy that you were looking for, but in the meantime, you killed somebody else that was just but that's how frivolously they treat us.
I want to share something with you guys, because you know, I never stop. I always know who I am. You know what I mean? But see, our reputation. Let me just share this with you guys, okay? Just check this out real quick, and you'll understand just how quick. Now, in this video, I'm me. You know, I'm always pretty upbeat, but check this out.
With accusations of racial profiling against the Houston Police Department. And good evening, friends. I'm Dave Ward.
And I'm Gina Gaston. A Houston lawyer says he was cuffed and humiliated in his own office building because he is black.
Eyewitness News reporter Jessica Willie joining us live with an ABC 13 exclusive. Jessica?
Yeah, Dave, when you see the story, you'll understand why Dennis Sperling, who's licensed to carry a gun, says it's lucky he didn't shoot the police officers. He was here withdrawing cash at this ATM when he ended up in handcuffs. Attorney Dennis Sperling is calm by nature.
There's no need to argue with these fellas.
And calm he was Friday night when he became a bank robbery suspect outside his law office.
It was humiliating. I got my cash.
Sperling, who was with an employee, had just withdrawn cash from the machine outside the Southwest Houston building. As he turned around,
they were like ninjas coming out of the dark.
He says two men in dark clothing were telling him to put his hands up.
I got my weekend cash. I got my receipt in my other hand.
And on him, a weapon. Sperling is licensed to carry a gun. The men, Houston police officers, took his weapon, put him in handcuffs,
I was sitting right here.
and on the ground. In a lawsuit Sperling filed this week, he alleges civil rights violations, saying he was racially profiled.
The question is, how did I become a suspect?
And blaming what happened on a lack of training. He names the city, the police chief, and the two officers.
They should announce police officers, HPD,
whom he thinks should have also just asked a few more questions.
My response probably would have been, officer, well, I was just getting some money out of the ATM machine, and that's my name on the wall right there. I'm an attorney and I practice law here.
In response, the city says Sperling and his employee were the only persons at the scene when the officers arrived. There is nothing to indicate he was a victim of racial profiling. Turns out there was no break-in. It was a false alarm, but for Sperling, still damage.
I'm doing this so that my children don't have to deal with this, and so that your children don't have to deal with it.
And Sperling says the officers did give him back his gun and apologized profusely when they sorted everything out. This lawsuit is filed in federal court, and the city says they only learned of it when we asked for a response. Live tonight in Southwest Houston, Jessica Willie, 13 Eyewitness News.
So, you know,
with accusations of racial profiling.
So basically what I'm saying, guys, is none of us are immune to this reputation that we have. They didn't see a black lawyer. They saw a thug. They saw a pookie. They saw a gangster. They saw a drug dealer. They saw a deadbeat daddy. They saw somebody not deserving of life. That's what they saw. And so I am so happy that Kevin Samuels and TLA and Dr. Hasan Johnson and Dr. Ronald Neal and Green Gorilla and Kosher Klinician and all these other young men are helping to change the image of black men. See, I'm not talking about this from some lofty position. I'm talking about this because I had guns pulled on me and I was handcuffed and sat down on the steps in front of my law office while people walked by looking at me. Now, despite what the police said, there was other people around. There was some white folks around. But would they have done that to me if I was a white girl? Or is it because I'm a 6'5" black man and I was a nearest suspect? That's what happened. You understand what I'm saying, fellas? So this is real to me, man. This is not something I'm making up. I could have been another store, man. I could have been another T-shirt. You understand me? My family could have been looking for a settlement. I could have been a hashtag. So this shit is real to me, man. And I'm tired of dudes on the internet perpetuating that negativity and all that. You can't escape it. I told the brothers the other day, it don't matter. You just another rich Negro. And there's nowhere else to go. This is our reputation around the world, man. You understand what I'm saying? So this is why this is real to me. We're going to do one more round. Pastor, you up, man. You got 2 minutes, brother. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, I won't even take that long. I think we need to understand that American propaganda is real, and history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And when they look at Hitler and how he committed all the things that he done, they learned that wasn't the right way to do it. But they did learn from a young lady that started Planned Parenthood who went over there and learned about propaganda and came back and began to use a series of propaganda to actually change how America saw black people through the media. So we talk about this gender war as in like how it's come down, but me being a theorist, I do believe that all this is propaganda and all this has been planned. This has been planned by someone sitting inside all the head spots to get us on a Discord so that we can commit systematic genocide on ourselves. Because if black men are not dating black women and having black families, we don't have black kids. Thus, and if we start, I don't want to go too deep, but we could systematically wipe ourselves out. And they just sprinkle in one or two things here, sending black men to prison, Planned Parenthood here and there to make sure that kids aren't being born. I think all this is very systematic to what's going on. And I had 2 altercations with the cop, well, more than 2, but 2 that really stand out. One, when I was a Pookie in a Ray Ray, I'm a true Florida boy, so I had dreads and gold teeth in my mouth, and I got pulled one time with a wife beater on in the middle of Florida. It was like July, and he put my chest on the hood of the car for about good 2 minutes. So we were scrambling and moving around. The second time it happened, I was a financial advisor for the city of New Orleans. I planned I went to all their employees and talked about their retirement benefits. I traveled back and forth from New Orleans back to Florida, and I got pulled multiple times in the state of Alabama to the point to where my mentor came to me and said, listen, get dressed up, put on a suit and tie, hang your coat jacket in the back, and put your briefcase inside the front seat. So when it happens to you again, they won't pull you out of your car like they did the first 2 times and check my car. They would see that you're working. So from then on, I began to travel always dressed up. I practiced that until I got older and got gray hairs around. Now I can do it a little bit more safer. But that was one thing that he told me. So I think that when we're talking about America and how this is planned out, I think we need to really understand that this has been very systematic. This has been planned and purpose from about 1930, and us as black men going to have to change our own view of how the world definitely sees us.
All right, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Sage Life, you got 2 minutes, bro. Go ahead.
Right. That's kind of a difficult one to follow up with, but I'll add to what Pastor just said. So when think about the mentality that comes with the way that we dress, right? Something as simple as that. And like Kevin Samuels had talked about this, and I followed him early on when his channel first started. He talked about black men changing the way that they dress, and a lot of black men took offense to it. And I think that he was on something, because when you look professional, people treat you like a professional.
Yeah.
When you look like a ne'er-do-well, people treat you like a ne'er-do-well. The thing is, like, anytime you enter a culture, an institution, organization, whatever you want to call it, you're expected to assimilate their values, their beliefs, their behaviors, norms, styles of dress, so forth and so on. And likewise, the same thing is going to be expected to happen with this Black Manosphere as it pivots with the, in more of an intellectual direction, because you can't expect men to constantly be engaged in red pill rage and, constantly screaming at people and using pejoratives and insults all the time to get their point across to be family friendly, because we're expecting this message to make its way down to the lowest levels, down to children, down to young boys. Not just to young men and older men. Everybody's got to be able to tell their story, and they got to be able to articulate it in a way that makes sense. So that way the message can continue to spread until actual change happens.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother. Vintage Negro, you got 2 minutes, man. What are your thoughts? Wait, let me unmute you. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say, man. I think the manosphere, the new gatekeepers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are certain people that are part of the Black Manosphere specifically that should be ostracized, and that is for the good of the whole Black Manosphere. So I think we should continue to send the message professionally. I think we should continue to
And just let me say this, just for I want to interrupt, and I'm gonna stop. I didn't have a suit on. I had a big black jacket on. I didn't have a suit on. Maybe if I had a suit on, they wouldn't have pulled their guns out on me. But why do I have to have a suit on just to not get shot at the ATM machine by cops? Okay, so, but brother, go ahead. I'm gonna continue back up.
Just to segue off a little bit, I'm from Florida too, brother. And I've had on a suit, a 3-piece suit, and it's still been pulled over by the police.
Yeah.
So that doesn't matter. There's a big dogma with painting the black man as a thug, a criminal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're wearing 3-piece suit. Doesn't matter if you're wearing baggy pants. Doesn't matter.
I think it's because we have the reputation of being thugs and criminals. We're seen as thugs and criminals with suits on.
Right. Yeah, man. I wasn't talking about to actually keep them from pulling you over. The question was the reason why I done that is because I usually got searched. Wearing the suit usually stopped the search. I still got pulled over.
Okay. All right.
But it kind of keeps the thing going straight and forward. It's no, all right, let me go inside your car, check the trunk, all these type of things. They just like, all right, you was probably speeding. All right, this right here, and it just moves on after that point. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
And before I forget, I wanted to say this yesterday. Big shout out to my man Ventures Negro. We can already see the progress. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in the manosphere, hit a W for Vintage Negro, y'all. Hit a W. We're gonna change that Negro to God in a minute. You know what I'm talking about? But keep up the good work, man. Myron, you got 2 minutes, brother. You've been dropping these jewels, man. We need some more. What you got? Oh, unmute yourself. Hey, Myron, there you go, brother.
Yeah. I gotta be careful how I say this. Okay, what happened to you, brother Spiritling?
Yeah.
I don't even think it happened to you because they thought you were guilty of it. I believe it happened to you because it's to reinforce what we are supposed to do when our authority, the authors of our books, authors, the base word for authority, when the authority comes to us in a particular phase. And it's going to compound how our women treat us. It's going to compound how our children treat us, or how they react or act as they get older, or how they're either how submissive they'll be, how docile they'll be. When Obama became president, we saw this surface, higher than we seen in a long time. And I believe that was to keep us in check, to let them know, yes, he is the president of the United States, but you are not in a power position. Right. So again, the only way to really fix that situation, me being a person of the Air Force and study war tactics, with that just being said, it really won't be on the social media platform. It won't be in the court, and it won't be anywhere else. It won't be anywhere else, but at the point of contact when things like that happen, we were being violated. So, and that is the truth around the world, because I can't name one African nation or country that has a formidable military that can contend with any of the other superpowers in the world. And that's my words.
Thank you, brother. All right, man. Alvin, you last up, brother. Last but not least, man, you got 2 minutes. What are your closing thoughts? Remember, the subject matter today is men won the gender war, educated lames basically won the war with Black Manosphere or the Manosphere. What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
I think I like the direction that we're going, and I think we're finally realizing that we can speak and not. we're understanding how to deal with the rules, right? We're understanding how to move, and we're moving together finally, and we're starting to get somewhere. I think that there is a generation of men that were, if I had to guess, I maybe I would say embarrassed. When I look back in the history of my family, there's sharecropping, there's slavery, there's not a lot of joyous, happy things. I had to sit down with my grandmother just recently, and I had to dig stories out of her to get some color of what was going on back then, and the relationship between blacks and whites. And it's funny that you mentioned the traveling thing, brother, because it wasn't safe to travel. It wasn't safe to travel. It wasn't safe to travel from A to B. I tried to drive to Louisiana from here. I got pulled over in Arizona. It made me park my car and buy a one-way ticket to New York. That's how traumatic my experience was in Arizona. I had some hillbilly pull me over in the desert, and I thought for sure I wasn't going to walk away from that situation. And that's how they've been managing us this entire time. It's been with fear. And our lovely ladies, whether they know it or not, they have been contributing to the situations that we've been in. And I'll leave on this, and I'm gonna keep coming back on it because I didn't really realize it. I was always trying to figure out where all the black people went. I didn't know where all the black people went. And I'm realizing now that if we didn't have Planned Parenthood and all these baby deletions, there would be an extra 12 million black people in this country at the age of 45, between the age of 45 and now, and 45 and younger right now. It's a whole nother voting block that would be here. There would be towns, there could be cities, there could be places that were all black that could exist, but they don't. That we are, again, 10 to 12% of the population, same voting block for the last 150 years. How does that happen? That doesn't happen on accident. So whoever's out here, everybody out here thinking on these small term things, understand that this is larger thinking, eradication from a whole nother, all that conspiracy theory that you thought was conspiracy theory ain't conspiracy theory. They're really putting us in boxes, literally and figuratively. And I think that this is a great moment for us that we can realize, okay, you know what? Let's reset the table. Let's get the knuckleheads out of the way, and let's be successful like we know we can, because we're men at the end of the day, and we're resilient. It only took a certain amount of time for me to sit here and get pissed off enough to pick up this microphone. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, you want a problem with me? Fine. Okay, you get a problem with me. And now, I'm making it my mission to change the image of Black men. That is my number one. That's what I go to sleep thinking about. That's what I wake up thinking about. That's all. And it used to not be that way. But if this is the result of the bullshit that we've been dealing with, fine, it is what it is. That's all.
Yeah. I want to thank you all. Thank all you brothers for being here today. And just to drive this point home from earlier, that young man who they said was a robbery suspect, this is his photograph right here. You understand that? That's him holding his Sam Houston State University degree right there. This is who they say was a robbery suspect. Now, mind you, he also had a master's degree. He was sitting in his car studying, and the police rolled up on him and shot him. You understand what I'm saying? So for all of you brothers who don't understand, I showed you the video of myself being arrested, 2 police officers at my back telling me to turn around while I'm at the ATM machine and I'm armed. Lucky I didn't react like I should have reacted. 2 men approach you at night from behind and tell you to put your hands up in the dark, coming out of the dark with no police lights. Because remember, they were trying to catch a suspect, so they're not going to turn their police lights on. So I have to believe they did the same thing to this young man. They snuck up on him. You understand what I'm saying? While he's sitting in his car with no police lights, and did what? The same thing they tried to do to me. So a lot of y'all make a big deal about the suits. Well, it don't matter what kind of clothes you have on. Well, see, Martin Luther King and those people in Alabama, we saw what they did. Bull Connor did to them. But they weren't out there sagging. They wasn't flying, throwing up blunts and weed and stuff in the air. That's not what they were doing. They looked like they had all just come from church. And so when those images were broadcast around the world, it looked like the sheriff, Bull Connor, was water hosing a bunch of church folk who were marching peacefully. And what that did was it showed just how evil these people were for picking on these innocent folks. People presume they were innocent. I'm sure there are people who have been in jail and had done things, but the presumption were these were good, peaceful people. I'm afraid to say that because of the reputation that Black men have today in 2022, if the police put the water hoses on us, if they began to shoot us down in the street, I don't think there would be a public outcry from the world. Why? Because we don't have the reputation that they had back in 1955. We are known, whether we like it or not, as a bunch of Pookies, Ray Rays, Shaquishas, and Shanishas, and everything negative that goes along with those names and monikers. In fact, even if you have a suit on, you're just a Pookie with a suit. Because the presumption is we're ignorant, ghetto-fied, violent, weed smoking, crack cocaine snorting, using, heroin shooting, gang banging, drug dealing, deadbeat daddy, ratchet baby mamas. That's the reputation that we have. So when the cops saw me, they didn't see a lawyer. They saw a thug. When the cops saw that young boy that I put up holding his degree, they didn't see an aspiring young professional. They saw a gangster. When they saw Alvin riding up through Arizona, they saw a criminal transporting drugs. When they saw Passer, they saw another criminal. This is what I'm trying to tell you all. So when we have someone like Kevin Samuels, who is well-spoken and knowledgeable about his profession as an image consultant, when we have someone like TLA, the lead attorney, who's intelligent, well-spoken, and thoughtful, and humorous, by the way, you got great, wonderful personality that humanizes us, that shows the world our intelligence. When you have a brilliant professor like Dr. Hasan Johnson and these other PhDs, Ronald O'Neal, the Green Gorilla, the Kosher Clinician, all these men, it shows that we are well studied. This is changing our image. This is making us human again, not some caricature of what we're supposed to be. Right now, the epitome of black masculinity is what? Some thug with his pants sagging down is acting tough.
Facts.
That's where we at. That's what the world sees. That's why when you run up on a young boy in Africa or South America, the first thing he does is, yo, what's up? Because he want to let you know, yeah, I'm a man just like you, American guy. This is my masculinity. I'm impersonating what I think masculinity is. And you got a whole bunch of other people right here in the United States who think that masculinity is this ratchet, criminal-minded fool that we got destroying the black community, making women, getting women pregnant, raping our little girls because mama want a man in the house. And so now the 14-year-old and the 15-year-old and the 16-year-old daughter all pregnant by the same man. That's the story. Your own sons are being molested by these dudes that mama bring in the house. Those are the pookies, and I can't work with them. That line is drawn. You selling heroin and cocaine to pregnant black women. And when the children come out, they're deformed, can't focus in school. I can't work with that. I can't do nothing with that. So any of you all who are out here or were defending these men on YouTube, that war is over. You lost. And good riddance. Good riddance. I'm glad they lost. The mainstream media has been putting those images out about black men since Oprah Winfrey and The Color Purple. And finally, we have a voice to speak with. Finally, we have representatives who represent all of us. If 60% of black men are in the middle class, then why is 90% of the representation of black men on TV and movies dudes with guns and tattoos on their neck and sagging? That's planned. This is psyops going on. And we have an obligation to stand behind those who will help cleaning up our reputation. So I appreciate the brother TLA, Dr. Hasan Johnson, Ronald Neal, Kosher Clinician, Mediocre Tutorials, Poorman Podcast, Green Gorilla, and all the other brothers who are professional, who hold themselves in a certain way, who carry themselves with dignity and pride. And there are others that I appreciate, some a little bit more grimy like myself. And I know you guys want to put me in that category of helping increase, but I'm here for a different reason. I'm here for the smoke. I'm here to wage war. I'm that other side. If you don't like them brothers, I got something for your ass. I don't believe you deserve nothing but death. So if you don't like them, come on my way. You see, I'll flip the switch on your ass and watch you fry. That's who I am. I don't have no mercy for you. And there are a lot of other black men out there that feel the same way I do. So what I suggest you do is allow these brothers to peaceably change this reputation. Because if you don't like them, you got a heavy hand of God coming after your ass, and that's me. That's what's coming after this. Me and all the rest of these brothers who are tired of living and dying and worrying about our sons because of you. Because of the reputation, that hood rat reputation that you brothers have been putting out there. You're still my brothers, but you're not my friend, and you're not my ally. And I'm going to treat you accordingly. You are causing the destruction of us. You're making it easy for our open enemy. You're making it easy for them to destroy us, and there'll be no public outcry from the world like there was in 1955 when Bull Connor turned the hoses on those folks in Selma, Alabama. Martin Luther King expected that to happen. That's why they purposely chose Rosa Parks. They had a choice between Rosa Parks and another woman, but they said they chose Rosa Parks because she was demure, she was a seamstress, she was quiet, and people would empathize with her because of her image. They put suits on. We're going to go out here. We know what Bull Connor is going to do, but we're going to look like church folk. And the rest of the world, from Europe to Africa to China to Australia, they're going to see that and say, oh my God, look how horrible these people are. And right here in the United States, that's why they did that. That is why this is a fight. We need a motherfucking image consultant right now, because the image of black people is in the shit toilet right now, full of maggots. So thank you so much, Kevin Samuel, sir. Thank you, all you other gentlemen. Please continue what you're doing, and we have your back. Brothers from all walks, hell, even the former Pookie and Ray Rays don't want their children to go down the same path that they went down. They'll be a damn fool if they didn't. They move out to the suburbs for the best education for their children. They're putting their children in private school when they can, and the best schools they can. Anybody supporting this Pookie and Ray Shaquisha movement, saying let's keep it gutter, let's keep it ratchet, let's keep it gang, they are not your friends. They're fools and they're your enemies. And y'all keep that in mind. This is Uncle D. I love you guys, and as I always say, I'm out.